Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Nika Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What if Deku had multi-weather quirk? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Eraserhead is not known to be kind, nor caring or any positive adjectives for that matter. But tonight, he is all of those things and more. What exactly happened? Well, it all started with a green-headed woman. Inko Midoriya is unbelievably witty and nice, however on this one rainy late night, fate had decided to run its course. It was just past 10 p.m., Inko was just getting ready to go to bed after finalizing some documents for an upcoming court case when she received a distress signal from the head of the law firm. Even though Inko thought it was weird that she was the one who got sent the signal, she decided to check it out either way as a precautionary measure. So, after putting on some semi-decent clothes, she slipped on her rain boots and headed out with just her umbrella, phone and wallet. When Inko Midoriya finally arrived, she expected broken windows or at least any signs of vandalism, but everything was perfectly intact. It was nothing like how she anticipated everything to be. Weird, she thought. Despite her heart telling her she needs to turn around and leave immediately, Inko decided that she had to do a thorough sweeping across the three-story law firm before finally leaving. As she walked amongst the floors with a flashlight she grabbed from the empty security desk, she felt a presence following her, mimicking her every move. The more she walked, the more creeped out she got. At one point, she stopped moving entirely, yet the presence only seemed to grow closer to her. Inko was absolutely terrified to say the least, but she still had to check out the roof before leaving, so she held a breath in before finally opening the door towards the roof. The fresh breeze and the beautiful night sky hits her first. She was absolutely mesmerized by the beauty of Muzurafu, and a sense of tranquility washed over her as she took in deep breaths, but this wouldn't last long as soon a masked man came up behind her and stabbed a knife through her chest. Everything happened in a split second, first the knife, then a scream, and lastly the fall. As Inko Midoriya laid on the piercing spiked fence, she couldn't help but feel guilty. Her son that just turned 4, the son who was about to get his quirk, has nobody left. Her husband was gone and both sets of grandparents are also dead. I'm sorry, Izuku. Baby, I'm so sorry, she kept repeating, knowing the message will never actually reach her son. Eraserhead really wanted a peaceful night on patrol. I mean, after an entire week of grading papers, failing half of his homeroom class, expelling a quarter of said class and receiving mountains of angry emails from parents, he was exhausted to say the least. Who wouldn't be? But keep in mind that was just during the day. During the night, Eraserhead would roam the streets, the alleyways and the rooftops, and on every night, fate somehow always manages to bring trouble to Eraserhead. Monday was petty theft, Tuesday was a bar fight, Wednesday was dealing with drunkards, and Thursday was vandalism. So to say he was excited for Friday night patrol would be completely wrong. On top of that, it was Friday the 13th, the one Friday where all hell breaks loose. Last Friday the 13th, Eraserhead somehow got wrapped up in a costume party and won first place in a costume contest for looking like a homeless person the most. He was in his hero costume and was chasing a criminal who ran through a club. So yeah, today, or rather the entire week, has not been his favorite so far. Eraserhead was walking through the streets of Muzurafu, even half asleep he was alert as ever. So, when an ear-piercing scream that could rival Present Mix ripped through the silence of the night, he wasted no time dashing towards where the scream came from. By the time he had arrived, it was already too late. Blood was splattered amongst the nearby infrastructure and a crowd was starting to form. Originally darkened apartments suddenly all had their lights turned on. Eraserhead began clearing the crowd to try to actually get a good look at the victim. 5 minutes passed before he's finally able to call emergency services and assess the situation. Then, he sees it, a green-haired woman with a knife pierced through her chest and puncture wounds on her back, created by the spike fence she landed on. He carefully walked toward the woman, and tried to see if she was still breathing, though in his heart he knew it was impossible. But then, he hears it. I'm sorry, Izuku. Baby, I'm so sorry, whispered through the air. And everything seemed to still at that moment. Even Eraserhead stopped breathing to see if he was hearing things, but no, not even a second later he hears it again. I'm sorry, Izuku. Baby, I'm so sorry. Emergency services arrived not a moment later. Cops arrived to properly secure the scene and EMTs began to try to extract the woman from the fence and to stop the bleeding. Eraser, we need to conduct a formal interview just for procedure. Would now be a good time, a familiar voice whispered. Eraserhead nodded and wordlessly started to follow the detective to the police cruiser. This is Detective Naomasa Tsukachi. Currently the time is 1:30 a.m. I'm here with Underground Pro Hero Eraserhead. Eraser, please state your name for the record. I am Shota Aizawa. Legally, I am required to tell you about my quirk, lie detector. My quirk allows me to tell me if one is lying or not, but you already know this, and since you already know the drill, let's just jump straight in. I understand. Alright. Eraser, can you tell me what happened? I was patrolling around Muzutafu when I heard a scream from a few blocks down, and so I rushed towards the scene as fast as I could. When I got there, a crowd was already formed, so it took about 4 to 5 minutes to clear the crowd before finally getting a chance to analyze the situation. When I did, I saw a woman, around middle age, with a knife pierced through her chest and puncture wounds from the spiked fence. I checked if she was still breathing and she was, then I called emergency services. Alright, is that all? The woman, she was muttering something. What? She was apologizing to somebody named Izuku? I will look into that, thank you Eraser. I'm sure it's been one hell of a week, hasn't it? You don't even know Tsukachi, you don't even know. I'm not going to keep you then, have a good rest of the night. Same goes for you. And with that, Aizawa walks out of the police station and goes home. When he finally arrives back home, he wastes no time by changing into his pajamas immediately, and with a look that's still grim on his face, he hops into bed where Yamada is already lying, awake, yet he dares not to ask what has happened because he knows, he always does. He twists and turns, but he dares not to break down. And so this routine continues for an hour or so before he finally falls asleep and drifts off to slumber. But no, that's not what happened, isn't it? Aizawa couldn't sleep, no, not after what happened just a few hours ago, not after watching a woman die so helplessly as she repeats apologies to somebody who won't even know that they were her last words. So, what does Aizawa do? He does the one thing he's good at, research, and tonight, he won't stop until he finds out who this Izuku is, in hopes of finally allowing the woman to rest in peace and for this Izuku to ascertain her last words. After attaining the police report from Tsukachi, who was not at all surprised by the former being awake, he finds out everything he can about Inko Midoriya. It doesn't take long before he finds her Facebook page, and lucky for him, her account is very much public. And so he scrolls, and this cycle of motion continues for an hour or so. Kami, how many posts can this woman post in a day for me to scroll this much? Aizawa thinks. It's about an hour into his stalking until he finally finds it. Welcome to the world, my little Izuku. Party popper? With an attached photo of Inko Midoriya in the hospital holding a baby, the date? Exactly 4 years ago. The poor woman didn't even get a real chance to know her child before getting taken away by the cruel hands of fate. Aizawa felt sick. Oh Kami, how he wished he went to sleep along with Yamada when he arrived home. Guilt washed over him as he recalled the police report. Parents, deceased. Spouse, Midoriya Hisashi? Siblings, none. Other relatives, none. The kid had nobody left in his life, and the one and only person he should have had is now gone because he couldn't get to the scene of the crime fast enough. It was his fault, 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 his fault. His fault, 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 his fault. All his fault. Sho, a gentle voice whispered, a voice so small yet it echoed through the apartment. Sho, it's 4 a.m., come to sleep, Yamada pleaded. She had a kid, Zashi, a 4-year-old kid. Aizawa wanted to say more, oh he had so much to say, yet that was all he was able to cough up. But luckily for Aizawa, those few words were enough, because not even a minute later, Yamada joined Aizawa on their sofa and gently started to rub circles on his back. The soothing gesture allowed Aizawa to finally relax a bit, and he released a breath he didn't know he was holding. It's not your fault, you did everything you could. But the kid, Zashi, he'll end up in foster care. You and I both know how much foster care SCKS. And it was true, they both know that the system SCKS. Aizawa Shota was 8 when his parents decided they had enough and just left him in front of a fire station, which led to him being put into the foster care system, which he, like so many others, bounced around in. It took him around 6 years before he was finally out of the system, as he became a ward of Yui. As for Yamada, he didn't have much luck either. He was 3 when he was put into the system, and when his quirk arrived, he got muzzled a lot. Yet, he never received the proper quirk counseling, and so he never really learnt the ways to properly control it and was forced to rely on pure skill. It was a miracle really. The raw talent he had was thankfully just enough to get him into the hero course in Yui and, like Aizawa, became a ward of the school. Both Aizawa and Yamada tried their best to not recall their past trauma. But in times like this, it's hard not to. I mean, can you really blame them? They sat in silence for a while, both evident that they knew what they should do but too afraid and unprepared to say it out loud. It's Aizawa who finally decides to break the silence, offering to make them some breakfast for the new day because before they knew it 2 hours had already passed. Yamada only hums at the decision and goes to get ready to go to Yui. Aizawa is troubled to say the least. He knows that he should do the right thing and take the kid in, but are they really ready? Talking about it is one thing, but actually doing it? He sighs as he continues to scramble the eggs. They're just going to have to put a pause in this for a bit. When Yamada finally comes back out, he's met with 2 sets of beautifully crafted breakfasts, each personalized to a T. I'm taking a day off, Zashi. I'd make you take one off even if you didn't. Aizawa only huffs in response because what else can he say to his loving husband? Take care of yourself today, okay? I will. When Yamada inevitably leaves for his shift at Yui, Aizawa is left alone with the emotional turmoil from yesterday. He knows he's not sure about a lot of things, but one thing is clear and he's definitely sure about it. He has to see that kid, no matter what chapter text. What do you mean the kid is gone? Tsukachi? He says with a rage never seen before as his hair floats above his head, red eyes glowing in the dimly lit apartment with early morning light shining through the window, his quirk ultimately activating as emotions run high. He's not in the apartment he's supposed to be in. We've checked the next door neighbors' apartments too. Matter of fact, we've basically ransacked the entire apartment building. I've called Midoriya-san's only emergency contact, one Mitsuki Bakugu. She reports that she hasn't seen him at all, at least not since Friday afternoon. What the hell? Tsukachi. With a large sigh and a twitch in his eye, he starts going off on the detective again. Tsukachi, we have an open murder case and now a missing persons one. Are you trying to rack up every single major case there is in the whole of Japan? Why don't you find a drag cartel while you're at it? Aizawa, trust me when I say I'm as frustrated as you are, but our hands are completely tied. There's no sign of anything really. The furniture in the apartment is spotless, like it was newly bought, no normal wear and tear amongst the walls or floors. Put me on the missing persons case. I'm heading over to her apartment now. Aizawa, that's too much of a workload, you can't . Now, detective. Beep. Aizawa ends the call, frustrated and honestly a bit emotionally constipated. Without a single thought in his mind, he changes into his hero costume and practically sprints out of his apartment. In his mind, he knows he'll get an earful from Yamada later on for not resting, but that isn't his biggest problem right now. When he arrives at the apartment with 2 cups of coffee in hand, he notices that there is already police tape on the door and one detective Tsukachi is there waiting for him, a tired yet stern look on his face. Aizawa hands the detective a cup of coffee as a sign of apology for the way he treated Tsukachi just moments before, which the detective graciously accepts. Working alongside the underground pro for half a decade has given him more insight on things relating to Aizawa. They finish their respective cups of coffee and puts on LTX gloves. The hero-detective duo soon then enters the apartment. Everything looks dirt clean? Sparkling even and more suspiciously, cleaner than when the detective and the police first arrived, which was presumably last night. Aizawa walks around the apartment with a sense of familiarity as he recalls the floor plan he was sent along the way. As he reaches the child's door, his eyes lock onto one thing, the nameplate hanging on the door. Izuku Midoriya, written in big, bold letters on the paper insert, perfectly still inside of the Eraserhead-themed nameplate. Wait, rewind that. Eraserhead-themed? Aizawa immediately locks eyes with the detective, both standing in front of the door in shock. Oh shit, the kid knows him. Izuku Midoriya knows Eraserhead. His head is spinning. What do you mean the kid knows Eraserhead? Scratch that, how does a 4-year-old know of an underground pro-hero who avoids the media like the plague? Shota. With that, Aizawa is snapped back to reality. And with a questioning look on his face, he turns to the detective. I've been calling your name for 3 minutes, you seemed like you needed a wake-up call. Right. Thanks, Tsukachi. Can we finally head in now? Yeah. A hand is put on the doorknob and Aizawa turns it firmly, pushing it open as a gust of wind hits him. The window is open. That was definitely not open last night. The detective remarks. Aizawa only manages to give out a sigh as he realizes the gravity of the situation and that he was definitely in deep shit, no doubt about it. He walks closer to the open window with Tsukachi tailing him. This just turned into a kidnapping case, didn't it? Tsukachi said unprompted. A rustle comes from the closed wardrobe, everything in the room stills. Both the detective and the pro-hero turn towards the closet and slowly walks towards it. Hello? Is anyone there? Aizawa calls out. Silence. Aizawa signals to the detective to open the wardrobe in 3, capture weapon in hand and at his disposal. 3, 2, 1. Right as the door to the wardrobe opens, explosions are blasted in the detective's face, not close enough or powerful enough to hurt or scar but definitely enough to sting. In a flash of movements, Aizawa moves to capture the attacker and activates his quirk on pure instinct. Let me go, hobo dash. What did you do to me? Why can't I use my quirk? Let go dash. Aizawa blinks. A child? Aizawa looks closer. That's not the one he's looking for? Red eyes stare into his. The child has spiky dirty blonde hair, messy but manageable, no obvious bruises and also doesn't seem to be injured. Katsuki Bakugu. Am I correct? The detective speaks up and Aizawa is only able to state at both of them in confusion, his gaze turning back and forth. You're that detective looking for the stupid Deku. That's me. Deku? Isn't that an insult? Doesn't Deku mean useless? Also, Bakugu? Why does that name sound familiar? Aizawa thinks, unable to comprehend everything clearly yet still trying to keep up. Eraserhead, allow me to introduce you both. This is Katsuki Bakugu, son of Mitsuku Bakugu, the emergency contact of Midoriya-san. Eraserhead? Wait, that means you're that pro-hero Deku talks about nonstop, the one that fights quirkless, right? Yes, who exactly are you? Tuizuku. Midoriya? That Deku is an annoying nerd who follows me around, looking down on me or whatever. Looking down on, never mind. Why were you hiding in the wardrobe? Why were you in here, kid? This apartment is supposed to be taped off, meaning it's not permitted for anyone to come inside. Katsuki huffs in response. I was going to look for the nerd, be a good, whatever, I was going to comfort him all right? Auntie Inko's dead and she's his only support system so he might do something stupid like, I don't know, go look for her? But I realized Deku isn't that stupid, dead means dead. Then detective over here came to look for Deku and I thought this whole thing was weird as F, and wanted to come over to look for clues and find Deku myself. That's what a hero does, isn't it? Clues? Like what? Aizawa felt idiotic going to a child for clues and sources, but what else can he do as of right now? For one, Deku has a sheet dad. Only ever comes around to take advantage of Deku and sometimes beats the sheet out of Auntie Inko and the nerd. Aizawa mentally flinches at the bluntness of this kid. Does he really know what he's talking about? We can't interview him here if we want leads. If this case was to go to court, this evidence would get thrown out immediately. We should take him home, Tsukachi. All right, we'll ask for a formal interview when we arrive. Katsuki stares up at the adults. What the F were they talking about? Is Zuko going to be okay? Why were they just standing around and why hasn't the hobo-looking hero put him down yet? Katsuki coughs, interrupting the conversation between the two adults. Are you gonna put me down or what? You seem like the type to run off, so, no. I'll let you go once we get you back to your parents safely. Katsuki huffs, what does this old man know about him? Soon, the three of them walk out of the child's bedroom with the detective walking in front. A piece of paper glistened behind the TV cabinet, so small yet it still caught Aizawa's eye. Regular paper doesn't glisten, not unless. Aizawa moves to pick up the white paper from behind the TV cabinet, one hand still holding the squirming child. Tsukachi. You remember how you said everything was like it was newly bought? Yeah? Well, maybe that's because it is newly bought, Aizawa says as he holds up the receipt paper from a furniture store. The detective's face changes from stoic to shock. This was a breakthrough, one that they so desperately needed as of now. Let's go, people. You still have to find the stupid Deku or else I'm gonna do it myself. Aizawa turns to Katsuki, a stern look on his face that, somehow, makes Katsuki shut up for once. One more thing, did you use the window to get in? I'm not like that stupid Deku, I'm not stupid nor will be so careless. I got in with the spare key under the mat. Keep up, old man dash. The detective and pro-hero stills, no. It was 11 a.m. when they finally got Katsuki Bakugu home. When they arrived, his parents were in obvious distress. Who wouldn't be when your child goes missing? In the midst of settling down the Bakugus, Detective Tsukachi manages to get both parents to agree to a formal interview the next afternoon. Once the Bakugus finally go back inside their home, the hero-detective duo turns to leave. Aizawa and Tsukachi seem to both have had the same thought in mind. The window was open and Katsuki Bakugu was not the one who opened said window. Is there security footage? Wiped. The pro-hero was not surprised by the detective's fast-paced thinking. He saw the detective making calls in the car. What was surprising was the fact that it was wiped so quickly. The security cameras were not new by any means despite everything else in the apartment being the opposite. In fact, if the footage from the security cameras were to be wiped, it would have taken at least a day, not including the amount of lag that would be present due to the immensely old and outdated program. Any DNA residue? Forensics is over there now. I'm heading over now and I'll update you soon. I guess this is the cue for me to leave. Don't tell Hisashi I was out. Depends. Aizawa rolls his eyes as he walks away. Great. As Aizawa walks away towards the train station, he's left alone with his thoughts. I will save you, kid, no matter what. Izuku wakes up in a dark room with only a flickering light bulb in the middle, nobody in sight. Frightened, he tries to keep his tears contained. It's okay, his mom is coming, his hero, Eraserhead, is coming, they'll save him. He stands up and wanders around the room. The walls are bare and concrete, almost resembling a prison of sorts if not for the colorful furniture in the room. This was weird and Izuku knew it. Bang! The door flies open, a hooded man with holes on the top of his finger barges in. Is that his Quirk? Boss wants to see you, lil dude. Come with me and stay by my side. Izuku only nods as he follows the instructions given to him. What was he going to do? Refuse and die? He was 4 years old, his frontal lobe wasn't even fully developed yet. The man abruptly stops in front of a door, causing Izuku to crash into his leg. Sorry, sir. Whatever, kid. The strange man says as he knocks on the door. The door looked strange. It was a wooden door with detailed carvings along the border. It was also the only wooden door in this place. The carvings were also weird. It was very detailed and oddly graphic. On the top was a man getting beheaded by the guillotine. On the bottom was a man drowning in the deep sea. On the left was a man getting cut into half. On the right was a man getting his limbs cut off. How disturbing. The door opens and Izuku is let in alongside the strange man. Izuku freezes as he sees the man who's sitting behind the desk. What was that word that Kachan always says? Oh right. F-. 5 months passed without any news and Aizawa was starting to get restless. The interview with Katsuki Bakugo did not give them much of a lead. The only new piece of info obtained was that Izuku Midoriya's SPRM donor likely fled to America because of his various crimes committed here in Japan. Then the phone rings. We got it. Tonight at 11 p.m., I'll give you more info when you arrive at the station. Aizawa stands there, phone in hand and frozen. How? What? When? Where? Sho, are you okay? Yamada says as he goes to stand right beside him with popcorn in hand. Aizawa's train of thoughts short-circuits a bit. How do you feel about adopting a kid, Zashi? I've always wanted a little listener. Wait, Sho, why so sudden? Just a gut feeling. Also I have patrol tonight. Stay safe, Sho. Technically the patrol wasn't a lie, he did have one, it's just more dangerous than usual. A white lie once in a while couldn't hurt, right? Once Aizawa finally arrives at the station, Tsukachi is already there waiting for him with a thick folder in hand. We don't have much time, but when I interviewed Bakugo-kun, my Quirk registered the fact that Midoriya Hisashi fleeing to America as a lie, even if Bakugo-kun didn't know it. Aizawa was quiet. Was this a new development in Tsukachi's Quirk? This prompted me to track down Hisashi and well, hopefully the kid is there. So you are going out on a limb? Tsukachi, I thought you were better than this. Eraser, just trust me on this one. Alright. And with that, they arrive at an abandoned-looking factory, SWAT hidden in plain sight all around the building. Let's get this over with, I guess. The past 5 months have been cruel and tortuous to little Izuku. After his meeting with him on the first day, Izuku had felt different, more powerful in a way. It was strange. On the second day, Izuku had a bad dream. When he finally woke up, clouds had appeared all over his room. Some were gray and some were even raining, but the strangest part. When Izuku thought to himself about wanting the rain clouds to go away, they did. Was this his Quirk? After 1 week, Izuku woke up feeling severely dehydrated, as if he had spent an entire week in the desert without water. It technically was his fault, he had been using his new Quirk constantly. So, he clawed his way out of bed and scratched at the door until somebody opened it. Izuku felt helpless, he was helpless, he couldn't do anything to save himself and as far as he knows, nobody is coming to save him, not yet. On the 12th day, Izuku had been dragged out of bed by the same strange man from the first day and taken to a training room? Izuku stood to the side idly as strong and grumpy men walked in and out. Suddenly, a cold hand was placed onto his shoulder, making Izuku jump. My boy, this is where you'll be training with your Quirk, this is the Quirk you'll be starting out with. More will be given to you when you achieve the skill. Merida-san will be your teacher, she's very skilled, so pay attention, my dear boy. I look forward to seeing your success in the defeat of All Might. Oh right. Yes, father. Izuku replies obediently as parts of his conversation between him and his on the first day of his arrival flows back into his memory. Midoriya Hisashi, or as the world knows him as, All for One, is Izuku's father. Who would have thought the world's #1 villain was his father of all people? Certainly not Izuku. During their initial conversation, Hisashi told Izuku about the 9 quirks he would be receiving over a PRD of time, a stockpile to be used to destroy the symbol of peace, All Might. Izuku never liked All Might that much. That doesn't mean he hated him. Izuku just thought he was too loud, too bold with his actions. Izuku still looked up to him though, the symbol of peace, a respectable figure amongst many, and Izuku didn't want to take that away from the people. No, Izuku, despite his young age, knew society would crumble without their pillar, their symbol. And so Izuku would do whatever it takes to avoid this tragedy he knew would befall on the people. Midoriya-kun? Let's get to training, shall we? And with that, Izuku is snapped right back into reality. As he gives a slight nod to his new sensei, he makes a vow to himself. He vows to never ever be like his father, nor will he fulfill his one desire. The days pass by one, and Izuku is left to wonder how long he has actually been here. What had felt like a few weeks just before turned into months as he does the calculation in his head. Izuku had given up on the hope of being rescued after a week. He knew nobody would find him, he just knew. But then, security breach on ground level, all subordinates evacuate through exit C immediately. This is not a drill, I repeat, this is not a drill. Izuku Midoriya stills at the loud noises just above him. For a moment he wonders if somebody is actually coming to save him, but he doesn't let himself hope too much. Hands in the air, everybody! Shouts and screams echoed through the chambers of this seemingly small warehouse. Said warehouse is not small, it is not small at all. Aizawa is frantic, to say the least. The warehouse looked as if 2 stories high and 4 semi-trucks wide, yet the inside was basically a labyrinth. He let the SWAT team and police take down the petty criminals as he wandered around the halls, mind focused on finding Izuku Midoriya. Come on kid, give me a sign. Just then, he sees something, a secret stairway just hidden between a gap in the wall, and Aizawa wonders who the F decided on this layout. With precaution, Aizawa heads down the staircase slowly, capture weapon in hand and ready. When he arrives at the front of the door, he braces himself as he kicks the door down. Bright green eyes meets his, and Aizawa slowly crouches down to the kid's level. Hey there kid. I'm Eraserhead, I'm here to rescue you, is that alright? The kid looks as if in awe, shock also evident on his face, but with a slight nod, Aizawa picks up the kid in one swift motion and bolts out the door and up the staircase. Just as he arrives at the top of the stairs, he is almost immediately tackled to the ground by one of the criminals. Aizawa, caught off guard, wrapped his hands around the child's head to protect him from the impact of the fall. Yet, it never comes, and instead, he is levitated off the ground. And before he realizes it, he is on a cloud heading towards the exit with Midoriya Izuku in hand. What the F dash? He swings his head towards the kid, heart pounding. This quirk. Aizawa's heart absolutely crushes. This quirk isn't just familiar, it's one that keeps him up at night. It's the one that causes all of his nightmares because it's his quirk, Oboro Shirakumo's quirk. He'll just have to put this on the back burner for now. Aizawa doesn't even realize he is outside safe and sound until he is ultimately dropped to the ground. Sorry, I am still learning to control it. Izuku apologies. It's alright kid, thank you. You kind of saved my butt back there. Aizawa says as he puts his stoic expression back on. How are you doing kid? Did the people in there hurt you? And no, they just trained me to use my quirks. What? Quirks? Plural? Quirks. I have 2 quirks, as of now. Would you mind telling me how? Well, my dad, he gave me the cloud quirk even though my original quirk hasn't been activated yet, and I think the new quirk kind of triggered some quirk switch, and so my original quirk was awakened too. Sorry I couldn't have been here sooner kid. It's okay Eraserhead SIRI, it's okay, I was never treated too badly. Aizawa's heart just breaks at that. The kid has clearly been suffering, and he likely still is. Having a quirk forced onto him must have been traumatizing, let alone the fact that he didn't even know giving away quirks was a thing. Midoriya-kun? Hello kid. A voice suddenly calls out, causing Midoriya to cower behind Eraserhead, and Aizawa instinctively holds Midoriya tighter. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you little one. I'm Detective Tsukachi, I'm one of the people who were trying to rescue you. Midoriya looked dumbfounded, his head turned towards Aizawa as if questioning if it were true, to which Aizawa responds with a nod. Where is my mommy? In a split second, the originally soft expression on Tsukachi's face turned solemn. She's gone, I'm sorry kid. Izuku's face blanks, and no, that can't be right now. His mom is in their apartment, she's probably making katsudon for them to eat. No. Tears streamed down his face silently. The only person who ever stuck by him, the only one who ever supported him, the only one who never gave up on him, gone. Warm arms wrap around him as Izuku continues to cry. He doesn't even acknowledge who is hugging him right now before he hugs back. Why, how, why would anybody do this? Where will I go now? Izuku manages to mumble out. The detective fumbles with his words as he tries to tell him that he might have to go to an adoption center as of now. But Izuku knew this. His mum was a lawyer who specialized in child protection. He knew the procedures in and out from the stories his mum would tell him. He expected this. No, I'll be taking him with me. Please send the foster papers to me and the rest I'll handle. Huh? Did he hear that correctly? Why you don't have to, Mr. Eraserhead? Kid, it's no trouble, really. If you're sure about this eraser. Tsukachi finally says. We are going to have to get you to a hospital first though, kid. Having 2 quirks isn't exactly normal. Izuku nods as the detective looks dumbfounded and Eraserhead just looks at him with an all-telling look which seemingly calms the detective down a little. Aizawa explains to the detective in the car ride over to the hospital about the kids' quirks and their origins, with Izuku drifting off to sleep next to him. So innocent and small, yet, he's already faced more trauma than most pro-heroes? What a cruel society. Through the rear-view mirror, he sees the detective's facial expression growing more pale by the second. Concerned, he opens his mouth to ask if he's feeling all right. But before he could even get a single word out of his mouth, he notices the detective shake his head slowly, signaling that they shouldn't talk about this yet, not while the kid is still present, even if he's fast asleep. 20 minutes pass and they finally arrive at the hospital. Izuku is taken away by nurses to perform mandatory checkups, leaving the detective and underground pro-hero all alone. So, what's with that look on your face, Tsukachi? We should sit down for this, Aizawa-san. There's an old folk tale about a man with the ability to give and take quirks from the early days when quirks were just popping up around the world, though most cases were in Japan. They said that he would use his power to manipulate people and force them to join him so he could gain total control of the world bit by bit, making humanity forever dependent on him. Although he has since disappeared from the public with no information on his whereabouts or his vitality, some theorize that he's still alive, roaming the underground forces of villainy and rebuilding his army a little at a time. Aizawa is horribly distraught, to say the least. With the information Tsukachi just dumped him, it could very well be inferred that this is the only possible reason as to why the kid has 2 FING quirks, yet Aizawa didn't want to believe it. How could he possibly? Just the thought of the ultimate villain from centuries ago still alive and rebuilding his minions makes his spine crawl. Did you, at least manage to catch him? Aizawa asked, already fearing the answer. Tsukachi's head is hung low, coffee held in between his legs as he sighs. He got away. No. What? He FING. Teleported away. A moment of silence rests before Aizawa decides to say something. Aizawa chuckles a bit. Guess I was half correct. You definitely are racking up every major quirk-related case in Japan, just not a drag cartel, I guess. Tsukachi stifles out a laugh, a sound so familiar yet feels so out of place in their current situation. They continued to sit on the bench in front of the room where Izuku was getting examined. Both remained silent because what else can they say at this point? The silence was comforting in their own sort of way, like a reassurance of sorts that they already did the best they could. An hour or 2 passes. The door to Izuku's hospital room creaks open and Aizawa is jolted awake from his subconsciousness. He checks his watch, 5:32 a.m., he was supposed to be home an hour ago. Oh. Aizawa lazily pulls out his phone and dials Hisashi's number. Sho, where have you been? I've been worried sick. You're always on time when you come back from patrol dash. Hisashi, I'm safe, I'm not hurt in any way. Just, remember that kid I was researching? What about the little listener? Well, I kind of took part in a last-minute rescue operation to retrieve the kid and also kind of agreed to take him in. Stunned silence fills the other end of the line. Zashi? You still with me? I'm going to call Nedzu and take the day off. I'll tell him that you'll be off today too. Thanks, Zashi, love you. Love you too, Sho. One more thing. Could you prepare some clothes for the kid? He's about 4 to 5 years old, I don't want him wearing the same clothes. Of course. Thanks, love. He ends the call as he stands up, already walking towards the room to check on Izuku. Knock knock. Hey kid, how are you doing? Eraserhead. Hi, thank you for saving me, it's really such an honor to meet you. Sorry for being such a hassle, I know you probably wanted to go home and rest because you probably have to teach at Yui and I'm so sorry for disturbing you. Huh? Did the kid just call himself a hassle, for needing to be rescued from a deranged villain? This poor, sweet, innocent child. I'm getting this kid into therapy stat. Calm down kid, it's fine, you're not a hassle, never was. Don't put yourself down like that, okay kid? Izuku's eyes widen in shock, just like he wasn't used to hearing that. Aizawa notices, he always notices. But he refrains himself from prying more into the kid's mental health for now. So instead he focuses on something else. How'd you know who I was? Well, I started following your career when I saw you out on the streets one night fighting a giant villain, practically quirkless. I was out with my mom and we were hiding so we wouldn't be caught in the middle of the villain's rampage. I was quirkless at the time and I know I'm technically not quirkless now, but my friends, they didn't think I had a quirk because I was a late bloomer and they kept saying I was a Deku and but that's not important right now. So, I was really admired by how incredibly you fight quirkless, so I did some research on you with my computer and found out who you are. Izuku didn't just find out who Eraserhead is though, he also found out about his teaching job, history at Yui, significant other, how many pets he has at home and well, a lot more. But you wouldn't go up to a stranger and tell them how you've religiously stalked them and practically found out their entire life because of one cool thing you came across, let alone an underground pro-hero. Aizawa caught about a tenth of what Izuku said. He stares at the green child in shock before footsteps come walking in, pace slow but deliberate, almost like the person didn't want to frighten the kid. And Aizawa, but he would never admit to being caught off guard by Tsukachi. You're a little genius, aren't you, kiddo? Tsukachi says with a small grin on his face. And not really, I try to be. Tsukachi chuckles a little, the vibe was completely different from the one from mere hours before. I'm going to have to ask you a few questions, is that alright with you? Izuku nods, he braces himself mentally for the next few hours. It's not until 3 hours later when Izuku is finally done with talking to Tsukachi, and by now it's already 8 or 9 a.m. Actually, Izuku doesn't know, he can't read clocks yet so he depends on whichever adult is currently near him. Detective-san? Yeah kid? Tsukachi smiles warmly at him, it's kind of like a clueless baby parrot, Izuku thinks. What time is it? And is Eraserhead-san actually going to take me? I don't want to be a burden. Tsukachi asks himself mentally if this kid is actually 4 years old because what kind of 4-year-old would ask these questions while also inquiring about the time? This kid should seriously get some therapy because what the f dash. Yes Midoriya-kun, he will. And also don't worry much, I'm sure he's more than willing actually. Yet Tsukachi forgot about the first question. Oh okay, and the time? Right, sorry, it's currently 9:36 a.m. Izuku is supposed to be in kindergarten right now, considering his normal life, before everything happened. Knock knock. Aizawa is leaning on the doorway lazily, Tsukachi is always impressed with how even his posture gives an attitude. Come on kid, we are going to get you discharged from the hospital then we are meeting up with a special someone to eat, what do you want for an early lunch? Aizawa asks. Katsudan. Aizawa gives him a soft smile and leads him out of the hospital room and to the corridor, waving Tsukachi a goodbye as the former starts his way back to the station. The drive to the restaurant was silent, it wasn't an awkward sense of silence, just very still. Aizawa focused on driving and Izuku, well he was trying not to freak out. But you'd have to understand that Izuku, a nerdy little nobody, is in the same car with his favorite hero, Eraserhead, who is also now his caretaker. He's anxious, scared, on the verge of screaming from joy and experiencing an outrageous amount of emotions that might cause a 4-year-old to combust. So yeah, Izuku was struggling to keep his calm. Do you know who we are meeting up with? No? Do you want a hint? Why yeah. Well, you probably know him from his voice, give it some thought, we're almost there. Aizawa glances at the rear view mirror, Izuku is sitting in the back seat with a puzzled expression until it hits, it was like a switch flipped in his head. We're here. Aizawa announces. By the way kid, call me Aizawa. Don't want people to realize I'm a hero by my hero name yeah. MHM. Then you can call me Izuku. Alright then, Izuku, let's go. The bell on the door dings as Aizawa pushes it open, Izuku's hand in his as he scans the restaurant for a certain blonde. He strolls towards the back table as the blonde turns his head. Present Mike. A smile grows wide on Hisashi's face as he sees the child before him. Hey there little listener. Heard you'll be living with us from now on, feel free to call me Yamada. Okay, Izuku replies beaming. Yamada and Aizawa both glanced at each other and seemed to have formed the same thought inside their heads, they would both kill for this child. Aizawa and Izuku quickly settle down and it doesn't take long before the food arrives. The entire time during the meal, they were all laughing, they were all happy. And Izuku thinks that maybe, just maybe, something is finally going right for him. When Izuku arrives at Yamada and Aizawa's home, technically also his home now, he doesn't exactly expect much. Theoretically, his stuff is still in his room at his and his mom's apartment, untouched, and if this is anything like his last living situation, if you know what I mean, the room he's given will most likely be bare and only filled with essentials. So you can imagine the surprise when Izuku pushes the door open to see his stuff inside with new hero merch sprinkled throughout the room. It's even more surprising when he realized his notebook is on the desk, his very first notes on heroes, or as he'd like to call it, hero analysis for the future. Izuku grins ear to ear as he turns to the two pro heroes behind him. I got your stuff from your old home, Aizawa says as he states the obvious. And I got you all the cool new stuff. His Ash smiles, ones that's equally wide as the one on Izuku's face right now. Thank you so much, you guys are the best, Izuku declares. You deserve it, kid, Aizawa notes. The rest of the day passes in a blur as Izuku settles in with his new living situation and Aizawa completes the astronomical amount of paperwork to be filled out just to adopt a kid. He thinks of just not adopting the kid for at least 5 times before Yamada decided to come help out. Thank God for Yamada. By the end of it all, Izuku and Aizawa are found on the couch, leaning against each other as they sleep peacefully, and Yamada just couldn't help himself by taking a photo of them both, which promptly gets shut down by Aizawa as he peeks through his eyelids. No pictures then, got it. Izuku can't sleep. Was he asleep on the couch? Yes. Was he woken up when Yamada decided to snap a photo? Also yes. But did he try to fall asleep again? No. When Yamada walks back to him and Aizawa's bedroom and Aizawa falling back asleep, not really, Izuku finally lets out a breath he didn't even know he had been holding. He trudges to his new room as he thinks about his new life. He realizes he doesn't really have anybody to depend on now. No mom, no Kachan, no aunties Mitsuki or Uncle Masaru, just 2 pro heroes that are likely to never be around. With a sigh, he hops into bed. He wants to have hope, really, he does. But he knows that consequences for letting himself hope too much. The bed is soft and warm, he feels just a bit more relaxed. In the morning when Izuku wakes up, he finds a stack of hot pancakes on the dining table and a sleepy Aizawa standing in front of the sink, washing the dishes as if on autopilot mode. "G'mornin'," Izuku slurs. "Mornin' to you too, kid, how'd you sleep?" "Very good, thank you." Just then, Yamada walks out of the bathroom, already dressed and looking like he's ready to start the day. Aizawa and Izuku both look at him incredulously. It was 8 a.m. On a Sunday? What? Yamada asks. Izuku and Aizawa both turn to each other and just starts laughing. Yamada smiles warmly at the scene, he could get used to this. The 3 went out together later that day. The adults thought it would help Izuku ease into his new life with the 2 pro heroes as his guardians. The first stop was Yui, mainly because a certain someone, Yamada, left his laptop there while working on Friday and forgot to pick it up the following day. When they arrived, Izuku's eyes were wide open and shining brightly. Future Aizawa would compare them to Aoyama's sparkling laser, but that's not for a decade or so. Izuku was practically buzzing with excitement, being in his dream school, and was basically begging for a tour with his puppy eyes. It wasn't hard for Aizawa to give in at all. By the time Yamada retrieved his laptop, Izuku was already on his 3rd lap around the school. The second place on their itinerary was to go to the supermarket to pick up some groceries. As the trio walked in, Izuku was confused by the quantity of the hero merchandise, or rather lack thereof. He turned to Aizawa as if asking for an explanation. "We are at a special grocery store, only licensed heroes shop here. The public is rather excited whenever they see us in public, so this place was built. Hero merchandise usually only appeals to the general public, many heroes have their own. However, it's common to get weirded out by your face on a product, hence the small amount of it." Izuku nodded as he grabbed their cart and followed Aizawa to the frozen section with Yamada trailing behind. Listener. What's up, Yamada-san? We might see some very popular heroes here. It's important that we don't freak out over them, okay? Just treat them like a normal person. I got it. Izuku smiles. Yamada is absolutely going to melt. Izuku turns back around to catch up to Aizawa. He sprints towards him and crashes into somebody. "I am so sorry, Sir Dash. Child, who are you and what are you doing here? This is a private property and you are trespassing. If you don't tell me your information right this second, then leave, I will call the police on you." Izuku sits on the floor, shocked, tears spilling over drop by drop onto the floor. He doesn't even register who this hero is until Yamada catches up. "Endeavor-san, I'd appreciate it if you didn't yell at my child, let alone be this harsh." Yamada's tone was harsh but firm. It was the most furiously Izuku has seen Yamada ever been despite his calm composure. By now, Aizawa has returned back to their side, sensing the commotion behind him. "What happened here?" Aizawa asked. "Keep a better watch on your child present, Mike." Endeavor then turns to leave with his shopping cart. Izuku is still sitting on the floor, Yamada and Aizawa kneeling on both sides, trying to help him up. I'm sorry for my father, a voice whispers, followed by hurried footsteps. Izuku looks up to see a dual-headed boy running into the aisle Endeavor left through. By now Izuku is fully standing, he wonders if the boy was Endeavor's child. How about we go to the park after this? Yamada suggests, hoping to relieve some of the tension. Why yeah, okay. They finish grocery shopping in record speed, all the while Izuku remained mostly silent. It was a different story in the car though. It was when Aizawa started complaining about this newly debuted hero, Sparksfly. He was talking about how careless he was being. It hadn't been a week since his debut and he had already accidentally cut off power supply to 5 buildings. Izuku joined in the conversation with his quirk analysis of the new hero and occasional chime-ins from Yamada. Soon it was the former who dominated the entire conversation. This is how the two pro-heroes found out that their kid had a knack for hero analysis. When they arrived at the park, the one Izuku used to go to with his mum, Izuku wasted no time and bolted out of the car. The adults didn't think much of it, they figured the kid was just excited to see his friends again. Since the park was in a residential area with a lot of parents around, not to mention the kid's combat abilities, the two pro-heroes weren't all that worried. They were wrong. Izuku bolts to the playground in the park. When he arrived, he realized his worst fear had already happened. Standing in front of him was Kaken, his gang and most of all, his new victim on the ground. Oh no. Izuku wondered how long this has been going on. But before he wondered, he stepped in between them, between Kaken and the kid on the ground. Shock registered on Katsuki's face. Izuku. His voice was cautious and small, nothing like the loud and egoistic one from before. Stop this, Kaken. Haven't you heard enough kids like me? Why are you just standing there, Bakugo? Let's beat him up. Katsuki's gang began yapping. Then, as if a switch flipped, a blast came towards Izuku's face. So, you finally decided to show up, Deku? What gives you the right to stand up to me? You are just a quirkless and worthless nobody, Deku. You're so worthless that even your MOM left you. Katsuki spoke with blasts between every sentence. Katsuki, stop. Izuku pleaded. You want me to stop? Maybe you should go take a swan dive off the roof of a building and be born with a quirk in your next life. When you finally measure up to me, then I'll stop. By now, Izuku has blood, tears and snot running down his face. He wonders how his best friend could be so cruel and cold-hearted. He tries to move, he really tries, but everything is so sore and everything hurts. So what does Izuku do? He remains on the ground where Katsuki has pushed him onto and continues to take in blasts from the palm of his best friend. What exactly is happening here? Katsuki and his gang turns, they stills. Izuku looks up. There in front of them, stood a very furiously Eraserhead and an equally furious present Mike. Izuku gulps, he knows Aizawa and Yamada would have a long talk about this later. Bakugo gulps because he knows he's dead meat. The others gulp because they recognize present Mike, the voice hero. I want the names and numbers of every single one of your parents. Present Mike says in a low tone, obviously struggling to keep himself calm. Of course, every single child complies. As quick as they are to give the pro-heroes their parents' names and numbers, the children are equally fast scrambling to go home. All except one. All except Bakugo Katsuki, who's standing there, dumbfounded. You. Go home. Aizawa instructs. And Katsuki runs. Why you both didn't have to do that? Aizawa and Yamada blink, they compose themselves before speaking. Izuku, their behavior, it's not okay. Yamada starts. Izuku realizes they were serious. Izuku realizes Yamada didn't call him little listener like he usually does. Yamada is right, these acts need to be punished, not condoned. The car ride home was silent. Izuku was staring down at his shoes, Aizawa was focused on driving, Yamada was calling each individual child's parent and explaining the situation. But before home, they drove to Yui where they found Recovery Girl. Thankfully, the blasts from Bakugo hadn't done a large amount of damage, only a few bruises and maybe a permanent burn mark on his left elbow. When they finally got home, Aizawa and Yamada sat down with Izuku and they had a long talk. They never went back to that park after that day. Izuku was enrolled into a new kindergarten school closer to his new home by the following Monday. Izuku was also now enrolled in weekly therapy. The day Katsuki Bakugo got the news that his auntie Inko is dead was one of the worst days of his life. The day Katsuki Bakugo got the news that his best friend was missing and or kidnapped was definitely the worst day of his entire life. Katsuki never thought that losing his best friend would be so detrimental to him. He knows that they haven't been the best of friends for a while, heck, Katsuki knows he was the one who was being a bad friend. But at the end of the day, they were still friends through and through. So when Izuku went missing, Katsuki was inconsolable. He would replay the last moments he saw Izuku in his head, trying to remember something that might help the adults find Izuku, even losing sleep over it. Then Izuku turned up at the park, maybe around half a year later, standing in front of the kid he was teaching a lesson to, protecting him, acting like a hero, practically mocking Katsuki and his behavior. Katsuki was furious. Why did nobody tell him Izuku was safe and found? Was Izuku even missing in the first place? Why didn't Izuku come to find him? Then Katsuki hit him. It was a blur. He let his emotions take reign. He knew he went too far this time, he knew. When he got home he was yelled at by his parents and grounded for a week. He was going to apologize to Izuku the next day at school, or whenever he came back. But Izuku never did. Izuku never came back. It was Izuku's first day at his new school and it was terrifying. His new kindergarten looked nice on the outside, a fancy school gate with teachers outside to greet them, flowers spread out in the garden, all in all like a complete fairy tale. But he couldn't help but reminisce about his old kindergarten. Did he get hurt there? Yes, quite frequently. Did the teachers do anything to intervene? No, not at all. But Izuku has gone to that kindergarten for as long as he can remember, and now it's changed. To be fair, everything in Izuku's life has been turned 180 degrees ever since that one fateful night. Izuku stood frozen in front of the gates. Yamada and Aizawa both urged him to continue walking but he couldn't, he just couldn't. Hey buddy, I know change is scary, but look on the bright side. You'll meet tons of cool new friends, won't you? Maybe. Don't be so gloomy, kid. Yui is within walking distance from here. If you ever need something just call us and we'll be here in an instant. These words of encouragement from Yamada and Aizawa lightened Izuku up a bit. The entire thing was still scary, but he knew that his guardians would have his back. The first 2 lessons came and went. Now it was recess time for Izuku. He stood at the back of the line when preparing to go out to the playground. Kids from every class throughout his kindergarten rushed out, some on the monkey bars, some at the snack booth, even some who were gathered in a corner reading. But none of them caught Izuku's eye. He was focused on one singular kid. Izuku recognized the kid from the back of his class. Nobody would talk to him nor did he talk to anybody. He was alone, like Izuku had been in his old kindergarten. As Izuku began walking towards the kid, somebody from behind stopped him, causing Izuku to freeze up. Hey, you're the new kid, right? Why yeah. I wouldn't recommend going near that kid under the tree. He's dangerous like the guy from that urban legend. By now, Izuku had realized the person talking to him was one of the kids from his new class, but no matter how much his classmate warned him, he didn't understand. How could a kid the same age as the be as dangerous as the number 1 villain? Izuku ignored the classmate and instead chose to talk to the kid under the tree. Hi. I'm Izuku, I'm new here. Didn't they warn you to stay away from me? The kid replied. Yeah, but somebody the same age as us can't be that dangerous so I thought I'd give you the benefit of the doubt. You speak like an old person. And no I don't. Seriously though, stay away from me. If you hang around me, it's a matter of time until you get stuck alone too. Just leave me alone. Why is it that you want me to go so badly? Izuku pressed but the boy didn't answer. Are you gonna tell me or what? My quirk is villainous, okay? It hurts people and you should just stay away from me. Izuku's heart breaks. He knows exactly how this kid feels. Izuku doesn't know how to console the boy. It was obvious he already made up his mind. But Izuku being Izuku, he's always willing to try. No quirk is villainous until you make it villainous. Izuku says while offering the boy a large smile. What's your name? Shinso Hitoshi. The boy finally gives in. Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you. The bell soon rings, urging the students to go back to their classrooms. When Izuku and Shinsuke finally arrive back to their classroom together, Izuku notices the shift in atmosphere around him. Before recess, everybody was friendly and kind towards him. Now, everybody avoids him like he has the plague. Izuku anticipated this. He knew it was bound to come. But Izuku didn't mind. He was used to this, and at least now he has one more person with him. The day ends and Izuku parts way with Shinso, both having smiles on their faces despite being isolated from the rest of the class. Because at the end of the day, it was Izuku and Hitoshi against the rest of the world. For now. You never told me what your quirk was. It was the next day at school and Izuku was sitting with Shinso under the same tree, away from their classmates and their judging demeanor. Are you sure you want to know? Shinso is scared. Izuku can feel it. He knows that Shinso thinks Izuku will stop hanging out with him if he finally gets to know his quirk. Yes. Of course. Izuku replies with an enthusiastic tone, hoping it would help ease some of Shinso's tension. It's brainwashing. Basically somebody has to give me a verbal response while I'm using my quirk, then they'll be under my mind control. That is? Shinso braces himself for Izuku's response. Amazing! You can do so many things with that, it's such a versatile quirk. Shinsu, you can become such a great hero with that. First, you can totally just get any villains to confess and arrested. Second, you can help take down major crime organizations. Third, you'll be able to help so many people. And dash. Izuku, slow down. But dash. Izuku's eyes are blank, he's under Shinsu's control. He's released a second later, in awe of Shinsu's quirk. I had to get you to shut up, I'm not used to it. Heh, sorry. It's just that I get very excited about quirks. Obviously. I told you my quirk, what about yours? Izuku freezes, oh shit. Shinso raises an eyebrow at him, obviously struggling to grasp the idea of Izuku freezing up when talking about his quirk when he's obsessed with the idea of quirks. I have 2 quirks. Izuku finally blurts out. Shinso sits there, eyes about to pop out any second. What do you mean? I don't know, I guess I was just born with 2 quirks and it's totally normal, the doctor said he was Finian dash. Izuku couldn't stop rambling. So wait, what are your quirks then? The first one is called Cloud, it allows me to generate and manipulate clouds. The second one is a telepathy quirk, I can move stuff with my mind. Oh, yeah, that's cool. They're stunned into silence, tension heavy between them. So, you want to be a hero too? Shinso asks, changing topics in a not-so-smooth manner. But it works because Izuku is back to being his quirk-loving, energetic self again, rambling on about how much he wants to become a hero, and Shinso joins him in his rambling, both going on and on about being heroes like there's no tomorrow. Over the years, Shinso and Izuku become even closer, developing a sibling kind of relationship in the process. Whenever one would get picked on, the other would always stand up for the other. Sometimes, they got beat up together. Sometimes, they were let off with a warning from the bullies. But they were together in this and they always will be. Aizawa thinks that they are insufferable, clinging on to one another like dust bunnies, or as Yamada would call them, 2 peas in a pod. He secretly loves both of them. Izuku also got closer to Aizawa and Yamada, accepting them as his parents instead of just his guardians. Izuku has learned to trust them, he knows they know what's good for him even if Izuku himself doesn't think so. Izuku and Shinso are in their final year of middle school now. Both striving to become heroes at Yui, but neither of them knows how to get from point A to point B. Did Izuku have 2 pro-heroes as his parents? Yes. Did said set of parents also graduate from Yui? Also yes. So why the hell didn't Izuku ask his dads to train them? Well, it's complicated. Truth is Izuku did ask them to train both him and Shinso. However, Aizawa and Yamada both neither accepted or declined. Instead, Aizawa told them to deal with it yourselves until you actually get into Yui, and Yamada followed suit, giving Izuku the same response. It was the Monday after the weekend where Izuku was rejected by both his parents. The initial defeat left a bitter taste in his throat, but growing up with Aizawa and Yamada, he since learned to never give up so easily. During lunch, Izuku went to find Shinso to eat lunch together, planning to tell him about his master plan to get into Yui. But then Izuku got held back by his teacher because of a missed assignment. Stupid fever that made me take a sick day. So instead, he texts Shinso to meet up after school. Let the record show that Izuku bolted into Shinsu's classroom after school to wait for him to pack up, only to then do it himself because he was getting impatient. Zuku, you still haven't told me where we're going. Shinso says in his usual deadpan tone. You'll know soon enough. Izuku replied in his usual chipper voice. Shinso only sighs in response. What are we going to do though? We are going to go to our new training ground in preparation for Yui. They stop in front of a beach entrance. When you told me we were going to a training ground, I thought you were taking me to a gym or something. Shinso pinches his nose bridge before continuing. Not a landfill. Well, how else do you suppose we train then? Izuku says in his own sarcastic manner, which usually only works on Shinso because the others take it way too seriously. Izuku Midoriya, how are you so smart yet so unsensible? What are we going to do with a beach-turned-landfill? We'll clean up the beach. It'll be good for muscle building, from what I researched anyways. Of course you did research on this. This is going to take months, you know that right? As they say, 2 hands are better than 1. Izuku smiles at that and Shinso only gives him a resounding sigh. Sometimes Izuku thinks Shinso might be the illegitimate child of Aizawa in another world. A few hours go by when Izuku and Shinso finally decide to leave. By now it's already 6 p.m., the mountains of trash barely has a dent in it. Seeing as to how late it already was, Izuku invites Shinso to eat dinner at his home, to which Shinso gladly accepts. How'd you find that beach anyways? I was going on a run. Elaborate. Your house is 2 train stops away. When I was young, my mom would take me here on weekends that she had off and we'd talk about everything and nothing at the same time. I went on a run on Sunday morning after Dad told me to figure it out and remembered about this place. I figured to come here to cool off, hoping it'd give me some ideas on what to do. In a way, I feel my mom's presence is strongest here, so I hope she'll, I don't know, infiltrate my mind to give me ideas. Shinso looks at Izuku, he really looks at him. Then he bursts out laughing. Why, you thought your dead mother would sneak into your mind to give you answers? Shinso is leaning on the light post, unable to stay standing. Hido Shiai. Izuku gives him the hardest side eye, which shuts up Shinso even if it's only for a moment. Right. Sorry. They continued walking to the train station, Izuku rambling on about Kamui Wood's debut that he saw this morning with his notebook in hand and Shinso listening silently beside him. Then Izuku hit something or someone to be exact. It wasn't entirely his fault though, he was always the clumsiest person in the room and he couldn't control it. When Izuku was little, he thought that this was his quirk, being clumsy. He bows frantically while muttering out apologies. Aizu, Deku? Izuku doesn't know how he should respond. I mean, what are you supposed to do when you bump into your ex-bully best friend enemy who you ran away from a decade ago? Shinso shoots Izuku a side eye. To his surprise, Izuku is already giving him a pointed look, blinking in a deliberate fashion, specifically their code for when one is in trouble. Did you develop a FINGI problem, Deku? FING, talk to me. Bakugo shouts. Bakugo doesn't know why he's shouting, he's never been one to retain self-control though. Mind your own DMN business, punk. He already apologized, just let it go. Shinso improvises, but he doesn't know exactly what to say either. I wasn't talking to you, eyebags. Wow, I didn't know that we were close enough for nicknames, but here we are. Shinso deadpans. Izuku squeals, from terror that is. Nobody that he knows of ever spoke to Bakugo Katsuki that way except for his parents. Sorry Kaken, we'll get out of your way. Izuku mutters, dragging Shinso away by his arm and practically running towards the train station. Izuku was grown, he knows. He went to therapy for years just to heal the parts that were broken from Bakugo's bullying. But seeing him in real life again reopened old wounds. Izuku slipped back into his old habits of running away and complying to whatever the bully wants without noticing. What was that, Izuku? Shinso asked. He wasn't calling Izuku by any of the nicknames, his voice was different and unlike any other times where he had to stand up for Izuku when he was being bullied. No. This time, Shinso wasn't just feeling protective, he was concerned. He has never seen Izuku act this way in front of someone. You know the scar on my left elbow? It takes a few moments, but Shinso answers. What about it? Well, it takes Izuku the entire train ride to his house to finish telling Shinso the story of how he had been bullied by Bakugo since he had been a little kid and the damage it has caused him. Why didn't you tell me any of this? Because you had it worse than me. I didn't want to make you feel like I was comparing tragedies. What we both suffered through was horrible, nothing should make it seem less than. You're always like this, Izuku, downplaying your trauma and shit. But at the end of the day, your pain and suffering is still pain and suffering. Shinso replies, it's barely a whisper, but Izuku caught it, he always did, it's partly why they're such good friends. Don't keep things like this from me anymore, okay? We're together in this. Always. I want, not anymore. Bakugo was going on a walk after eating dinner like always. Bakugo hasn't seen that nerd in years, ever since that day at the park, so it was no surprise that he didn't expect to bump into freaking Deku after all these years. A surge of rage began building up the moment he saw that green hair. Why was Deku in his territory? What was he doing there anyways? Does he think that he can just come back after reappearing and disappearing? Bakugo is back home now. He has since calmed down about running into Deku. Why was he spending so much time thinking about the nerd anyways? It wasn't that big of a deal anyways, it shouldn't even be on his mind. He continues to think about this for weeks. It's been a month since Izuku and Shinso started cleaning up the beach. They've divided up the beach into grids and worked on one part at a time. So far the system is working fairly well for them. Izuku is walking to the beach alone after school because someone got detention for fighting back. Izuku sighed at the thought but continued walking. He was just going to have to train without Shinso today. Somewhere in Muzurafu, All Might was reported to be seen, leading to the fans running all over the city to find the #1 hero. Izuku felt like taking a new path to the beach today due to the large crowds gathered on the sidewalks because of who knows what. Usually he would think twice before taking strange back alleyways, but for some reason he felt brave today, like everything was going to smooth sail. Then everything turned into a shit show. In a matter of seconds, Izuku felt like he was suffocating. he felt a slimy substance all around his throat, building up second by second. He glanced towards his side only to see some sludge with glowing red eyes. Izuku tried to fight, using the methods his dad taught him for self-defense. He scratched and he bit but nothing worked, his limbs kept sinking into the sludge. He tried using telekinesis but there were no items in his sight line. He tried making clouds but it formed into water instead since he has little to no experience with this quirk and had forgotten all his training. He hasn't used this quirk in a while, not ever since he had been rescued. He knows the quirk isn't his, he knows it's wrong and messed up to use this quirk. A terrifying thought dawned on Izuku. He realized that he was out of ideas, in other words, he was helpless. The same kind of helpless when he was kidnapped by his own SPRM donor, the same kind of helpless when his mother was found dead and he thought had nobody. Have no fear. A booming voice suddenly announced himself. I am here. Izuku recognized this voice, and suddenly, he didn't feel so helpless anymore. With a punch, the villain fell to the ground, not daring to move. It was like those superficial stories where the hero easily defeats the villain. He pulls an empty soda bottle out of seemingly thin air and uses it to contain the sludge villain. All Might rushed towards Izuku with concern laced in his eyes and blood starting to drip from the corner of his mouth. Are you alright, Shounen? Why yes, All Might. I am fine. Thank you, really. It is my duty after all. Now come on young man, let's take you to a hospital for checkup. Then Izuku did a double take. Wait All Might, you're bleeding dash. It's no big deal, young man. Noise began to arise from the other side of the bridge. Izuku felt an imminent dread over him, something was bound to happen. Moments after, a crowd came surging under the bridge. Izuku was pretty sure that there were fans even on the bridge. Izuku was pushed around and suddenly he found himself far from where he had been, far from All Might. He didn't think much of it, it was All Might after all, he is the #1 hero so it's no surprise he had an overwhelming number of fans. Izuku walked away, a bit concerned for All Might but he had enough trust in him to go to a doctor. It's fine if I didn't train today after all that's happened. Izuku thought. After half an hour, All Might finally found himself free away from his fans. He loved them, he truly did, but sometimes they were a bit much. He looks around to try and find the boy but he is nowhere to be seen, maybe he got spooked by his fans and left. He feels like he's missing something but he doesn't know what. He didn't realize that the soda bottle was nowhere to be found. There were a lot of crowds today? Izuku thought as he pushed past the people on the streets. He didn't want to risk another hostage situation by taking shortcuts through back alleyways anymore. Usually, it would take him a 15-minute walk to the station, but by now it has already been half an hour and the train station isn't anywhere in sight. Somewhere distant, Izuku heard explosions that were similar to Bakugu's. As he continued to walk, police cars came into view. He continued to push past the crowd until he reached the very front, just before the police tape. He wonders what's causing all the fuss. He looks even closer than he sees it. The sludge villain that All Might supposedly apprehended. He doesn't know how the villain could have escaped the #1 hero but that didn't matter right now. What mattered was Bakugu being held captive by the sludge villain, blasting off explosions one after another, and no heroes going near enough to rescue him. Izuku knew the reason. He knew that it was because no heroes on site had the right quirk to rescue Bakugu from the villain or else they'd get hurt themselves from Bakugu's explosions. There was fire everywhere around the alleyway. It was clear that holding Bakugu captive had been a struggle yet that didn't stop the sludge. Izuku couldn't stand around doing nothing but he didn't know what he could do. Before he knew it though, his body was already moving by itself. He recalled what All Might had done when capturing the sludge villain just now. He realized the only solid parts of the villain were its eyes. He used his telekinesis to move the rubble in a way that he could climb it like a staircase, tall enough to reach its eyes and prepared his water bottle. He moved swiftly, taking out its eyes after reaching the top then stuffing them inside the water bottle. What he didn't account for was the sludge body. Now that the cognitive part of the villain was contained, the body went rancid. Soon, he was once again captured by the sludge villain, this time in a more dangerous position than before. The body had no rationality, it knew no such thing. But just in the nick of time, All Might emerged from the crowd, looking confident as ever. Inside, he knew he was going to be out of time in a matter of minutes. All Might defeated the villain once again in a matter of seconds, containing it then running off, leaving the crowd confused but impressed. Only Izuku was concerned. He wanted to chase after him but he was surrounded by heroes, being yelled at for his recklessness and his illegal quirk usage. When they were finally done, Izuku apologized profusely to them for putting them in more of a mess and he was let off with a warning. They probably had to do even more paperwork now. Izuku ran towards the direction All Might ran off to, hoping to find him. He did, eventually. He stumbled upon a small neighborhood when he saw a buff-looking silhouette in the shadows of small alley between houses. "All Might, are you all right?" Izuku shouted. "Why yes, Shounen, I am fine." All Might emerged from the shadows. Then he wasn't fine. Suddenly, All Might had become scrawny and weak-looking. Izuku was confused. "Where did All Might go?" "I am still here, Shounen." "What?" All Might sighed and decided to briefly explain his other form to Izuku. Izuku was stunned into silence by the end of it. "Please, keep this a secret, my boy." Of course, All Might." There was a beat of silence. "I hope to see you again, in a less dangerous situation next time. Good luck to you, boy." "Thanks, All Might." Izuku then turned on his phone. He had 24 missed calls equally distributed amongst both his parents. Oh, he was so fed. It's without question that Izuku rushed home as fast and as legally as he could. When he finally arrived home, both Aizawa and Yamada were standing outside on the porch. If you didn't know Aizawa and Yamada, you'd think they were calm and collected. Yamada bore an emotionless expression, and Aizawa looked like his normal self. But Izuku knew them, he's lived with them for a decade, he knew his pops would never be emotionless, no matter what, a soft smile would always be plastered onto his face. For his dad, Izuku can see that. His brows are furrowed, he's only seen this once in his life, and it was when Izuku was pushed down the stairs by a bully and broke his arm, which the school covered up. When he finally reached the gates of his home, he tried to play it off cool, which failed miserably. "Inside, now!" Yamada commanded. You'd think it was Aizawa who said that, even Izuku was surprised. Izuku sat on the couch as his parents stood before him, the only thing that was between them was the coffee table. "Izuku Midoriya, do you know how much trouble you are in?" Yamada asked. Izuku didn't dare to talk back. "Look, problem child. What you did today was insanely reckless and stupid. I understand that you felt the need to save the blonde kid, it's what heroes do. But you have to understand that you are not a hero yet. I have no doubt in mind you'd make a great hero, but you haven't had proper training, you don't know the ropes, and frankly you could have gotten yourself killed." Aizawa's voice was stern, it cut through the already still air. Izuku saw tears starting to form in Yamada's eyes, which kickstarted his own set of tears. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. When I saw that the heroes on site were just standing around and that Kaken was going to suffocate, I couldn't just stand around doing nothing." Izuku spoke quietly but clearly enough to be heard, he was choking on his own tears that were threatening to spill over. "Little listener. We understand, but that doesn't make it okay for you to risk your own life for the sake of others. Tonight, we are going to set some boundaries, it's not to limit you but to keep you safe. Okay? Okay." They talked on and on for hours. By the end of it, tears were shed, but the three of them had reached an understanding. Izuku promised to never do such a reckless thing ever again. When Izuku finally returned to his room, it was already 8 p.m. He turned on his phone once again to face a wall of messages, this time though, they were all from Shinso. Izuku pressed the call button next to Shinso's number, it didn't even have a chance to ring before Shinso picked up the phone. "You stupid reckless selfish idiot, what the f dash? Don't go risking your life for others when you're not a hero yet. What if you had gotten extremely hurt? Don't think you can just leave me here." Shinso continued to ramble on and Izuku just listened. If the situation was different, Izuku would laugh at the fact that it wasn't him who was rambling this time. Aizawa was in class when the villain attack happened, Yamada was in a meeting. And Kayama? Kayama was on break eating the piping hot snack made by Lunch Rush. It was natural that she was the first of the trio to find out what happened. As Kayama scrolls through the news channels on her phone to scour for celebrity drama, like one does, she stumbles upon a live stream from a villain attack. She notes mentally that the villain attack is taking place near Izuku's first kindergarten. By the time she joins the live stream, the villain has already been apprehended by All Might. She takes a closer look at the scene and then she sees him, the familiar green and untamable hair, her nephew. What the fu? She replays the live stream to find out what exactly her precious and, usually, obedient nephew is doing there, only to see him running straight towards the line of fire, literally. A part of her is proud of her nephew for acting more like a true hero instead of the actual pro-heroes on scene, but that's the minor part. Most of her is absolutely horrified and frantic, tremulous even. She runs at god speed towards Aizawa's classroom, so much so her speed is comparable to Tensei's. Aizawa was teaching a supplementary class when Kayama barged in his classroom. Upon her startling entrance, Aizawa is immediately on high alert. He hasn't seen her this serious ever on campus. "Your son was involved in a villain attack, he's fine but FING go home, now." Kayama yells out loud in a mess of words. Aizawa doesn't even care that his class now knows of his secret child and bolts out the door without a single thought in his mind. One parent down, another to go. "Kids, stay put. A substitute will be coming. Kayama shouts as she begins to run towards the meeting rooms. Luckily for her, she didn't have to barge into a meeting room full of stuffy parents who fail to see why their children are not passing in their classes because Yamada walked out of the meeting just as Kayama rounded the corner. Kayama? What got you in such a hurry? Go the F home, your son is in trouble. What kind of trouble? Yamada was so confused it would be laughable if the situation wasn't so serious. Kayama proceeded to tell him the entire story in 10 seconds flat and Yamada understood all of it. He got used to Izuku's 1,000-mile speed mumbling as a child and tried to use it to communicate with him. Yamada rushes home, this can't happen, not again, not ever again. That night, boundaries were set, punishments were established and Izuku had never felt so scared of his parents in his entire life. Safe to say that the entire family stayed home the very next day. In the morning when Izuku awoke from his bedroom, the air was tense. As he walked down the stairs, he saw Yamada making breakfast as usual and Aizawa sitting on the couch with a coffee mug and his phone in hand. Aizawa looked up. Izuku freezes. Mornin', problem child. Morning dad. Come sit with me, we need to talk about something. Izuku stills, what now? He walks to the couch stiffly, even by the time he sits down, he's still as stiff as a statue. Aizawa chuckles on the inside. Relax, I'm not gonna yell at you again. I think you've learnt your lesson. What I really wanted to talk to you about was about your quirks. What about them? You don't have enough control over them, and frankly, it might get you seriously hurt. Which is why I've decided to help you strengthen your quirk. Especially that cloud quirk of yours. Izuku looks at his dad straight in the eyes, is he serious? He literally told Izuku that he wouldn't train him? Why is he changing his mind now? Why? Because of that stunt you pulled yesterday. I reviewed the footage, you could have handled it way better if you had more control, even the bare basics could have helped you get out of there faster. But you were stubborn, you didn't even start using your quirks again until a few years ago, so now we have to start over from the very beginning. That's not entirely false. Just say I'm right, kid. In your dreams, old man. Aizawa lets out a very sarcastic gasp, Izuku laughs, and Yamada stares at them from the kitchen. The tense atmosphere was gone, they were so back. Breakfast is ready, come eat you gremlin. After breakfast, Izuku was retreating back to his room like any teenager his age does when the doorbell rang. He goes to open up the door as both his parents were busy cleaning up the dining area and the kitchen. His eyes widened in shock. H. Hitoshi? He looks closer. Kachan? Footsteps from inside the house ran towards the front door. Yamada and Aizawa were behind Izuku now, eyes equally as wide. All three of them had the exact same thought circling in their head. What the F dash? Can we come in? Please? Hitoshi asked, eyes signaling something to Izuku the rest can't quite understand. I can't stand another minute with this BSTRD, let me in you but. Izuku reads it perfectly, he decides to make the wise decision of letting them marinate outside for a little while longer. Why aren't you at school, Hitoshi? I kinda skipped school to check on you. That's going on your permanent record, by the way. There's already a lot of things on my record. Aizawa sighs behind them, it's unfair how children with psychic quirks like his and Shinsu's get treated so differently. And you? Kachan? I got the day off, stupid Deku, you seem to forget that I was also involved in the villain attack. Why is he so calm? Why the hell isn't he screaming? Should I be running for my life right now? Oh my god, am I going to die? Izuku was spiraling, so Yamada spoke up. Alright, you two have already stood outside for too long. Come in, I'll get you guys some tea. I'll go with. Aizawa added, he is not getting caught up in teenage drama, he deals with enough of that in his homeroom class anyways. He is, however, going to keep a very close eye on Bakugo after that incident from years ago. What can he say? Aizawa holds grudges easily against those who hurt his loved ones. The teenagers go sit on the couch. It's awkward, like really awkward. Kachan, why did you come here? How did you find my address? 1. Mind your own DMN business, you fucking nerd. 2. Public records. I think randomly going to the person you bullied's house is pretty much their business too. Shut up, eyebags. Whatever. He paused before he continued speaking. Shitty Deku, you didn't have to come save me. I could have handled it myself. Stop looking down on me for once. Why do I even bother with you? Bakugo's voice was dripping with arrogance and disgust. Izuku was offended, did he not just risk his life to save him? How is that even looking down on him? Before Izuku could say anything, Shinso stood up. Unbeknownst to the teenagers, Aizawa was also there, standing by the kitchen entrance, having heard everything said. I think it's time for you to go. Shinso says. At the same time, leave, now. Aizawa commands. Bakugo couldn't care less for the purple-haired freak, but man, Aizawa sent a chill down his spine. Without another word, he left. Izuku tilted his head. What just happened? Okay, is what Izuku finally settles on to say. Aizawa turns to Shinso. I agreed to train Izuku's quirks, I'm training yours too. Both of you change into something you can train in, I'll meet you at the front door in 10, then we'll go to Yui. Izuku and Shinso stood frozen. Go change, now. If you're late then I'm making you both run all the way to Yui. They ran upstairs. When they come back downstairs to the front door after 8 minutes, they notice that the front door is already open and Aizawa is nowhere to be seen. Pops? Where did Dad go? Izuku asked, incredulous. He told me to give you this note. Mike was smirking, this was definitely not good. Izuku and Hitoshi opens up the note. I lied, I'm still making you guys run to Yui even if you both made it in under 10 minutes. Aizawa. Izuku and Shinso turned to each other. Another logical ruse, should have expected this. And so they ran. They ran until they arrived at Yui, sweaty and out of breath, but they were there. Aizawa was standing at the front gates. You have to build your stamina up one way or another, now come on, we're wasting the daylight. So off they went to Gym Gamma. This is so grueling, Dad, what the hell kind of training is this? Izuku complained as he ran around Gym Gamma for the 5th time that hour. He had in fact forgotten how to activate his quirks for some reason. He tried and tried for a while before Aizawa finally got to said. I told you to use your quirk properly and you didn't, so now this is your punishment. You didn't give me any usable instructions? Problem child, it's your quirk, you should at least know what it is and how to activate it. In the corner, Shinso is throwing up from overexhausting his quirk by using it to control both Aizawa and Izuku at once. And so training was like this every day. It got better though, eventually. It's been 3 months ever since the villain attack. Izuku has finally gotten a good enough grip on both his quirks and Shinso has finally managed to stop throwing up, most of the time. Summer rolls around and by now he and Shinso have already cleaned up half the beach. They sit on the part that's been cleared of junk and stare out into the horizon. The seagulls are squawking, the ocean shifts. A beat of silence takes place and Shinso glances over at Izuku. It's unlike him to be so quiet. Do you think we'll actually get into Yui? The green-haired teen asked. Probably. I mean, both your dads are teachers there. And not to mention, they're also pro-heroes. We should still apply to the general studies course, in case we don't get in. Whatever you say buddy, whatever you say. Shinsu's voice is dripping with sarcasm. But deep down, he knows Izuku isn't saying this because he's worried about himself not getting into the hero course of Yui, he knows it's because Izuku was afraid he himself wouldn't get into the hero course there. It hurts, it really does. The entrance exam for the hero course of Yui was renowned to be the most difficult entrance exam in all of Japan. Given that it's biased towards flashy quirks, Shinso didn't really have much hope to begin with. It's the next day. Shinso is slacking off today, Aizawa acknowledges it, Izuku glances over at him multiple times trying to check on him. But honestly? He doesn't care anymore, not as much. He's not going to get into the hero course, he knows it. So why does he even keep training? Why is it that whenever he tries to stop, his body just continues moving? Later, Aizawa pulls Shinso aside as Izuku trains his cloud quirk. It rains inside the gym yet somehow Shinso feels that this is completely normal, it fits the mood, some way or another. Look, kid. You've known Izuku for ages, by now you're basically my second kid so I'm going to be completely honest with you. Aizawa starts and Shinso gulps at what's about to come, it's not going to be good. You and I both have emitter-type quirks. Compared to what other heroes or heroes in training have, we are at a disadvantage more often than not. I get it. Shinso is hesitant, he doesn't know where this is coming from. I didn't get into the Yui hero course right away, I didn't pass the entrance exam. Shinsu's eyes widened in shock, he's smart, he knows what this means. He had always known deep down in his heart that it would be the same scenario for him. What does this mean for me? His voice is small, weak, he hates it. Why are you training me if you know I wouldn't get in? Shinso asks another question. He looks Aizawa into his eyes, he expects guilt, maybe a hint of injustice. Instead, he sees determination, a flame that cannot be put out in Aizawa's eyes. We are going to break the system, change it once and for all, you are our key. A hand rests on Shinsu's shoulder and he glances towards the side. Bright green eyes stare into his. And we'll be right here with you. Every step of the way. He didn't know when Izuku walked across the gym, he didn't know when he himself started crying. But what he does know now is that he's not giving up. After training, Aizawa stays behind to finish up some paperwork and the two teenagers head home together. Is that why you told me to apply to the general studies course yesterday? You knew, didn't you? Yeah. You could have told me earlier, you dimwit. Shinso isn't mad, not really. He just feels kind of betrayed that Izuku had led him on like that at first. I didn't mean to, I overheard my dad talking to Pops the other day, that's when I found out. That's why I tried to signal it to you. I guess it didn't come across well, didn't it? Yeah. The two stayed silent for a bit. Hitoshi? What? I'm sorry. It's whatever. You owe me a popsicle though. What? Compensation for the emotional damage you did to me. Izuku chuckled. Hitoshi also chuckled. They burst into laughter. It was stupid, it was just so stupid. But that's brothers for you, blood-related or not. Izuku looks over the horizon, the beach now clear of trash and gunk after several months of cleaning. This was really something big. Izuku's silent thought ripples through the susurration. He sits near the shore of the beach, taking in everything. Behind him, he hears murmurs from passerbys, impressed and delighted by the thought of having their beach back instead of a landfill. Izuku's really being on the way to becoming a true hero. One step at a time. What? Are you getting sentimental over trash? A voice comes from behind him. It's Shinso. Izuku knows his voice at heart by now. Can't I just admire our work? You're too emotional. Izuku chuckles because it's true. He is too emotional. He remembers one time in middle school when Shinso got a broken arm from the bullies and he cried over that for a week when Shinso wasn't even fazed at all. It was kind of sad that this was their reality, but they had each other, so some good did come out of everything. I guess? Can you believe that we are going to be high school students in less than a month? Shinso asks. And it was true, the entrance exams into Yui are only a week away now and Izuku is counting down the days, anxious for what's to come, for the future. But right now, he doesn't think about any of that. Instead he reminisces. He reminisces about the times when he and Shinso were only children with the weight of what felt like the world on top of them. Now that that world is slowly disappearing into the abyss, Izuku could only hope that this new world will be nothing like they've experienced before. Yeah, I can. I really can. And I believe that we will be the best DMN students Yui has ever received. Izuku has been to Yui plenty of times growing up, whether it was staff development days with Aizawa and Yamada or open days, he was always there. Yui was his second home. But not today, no, definitely not today. Izuku wakes up with floating objects around his room. Why today of all days? He returns to objects to their usual position. He's nervous, way too nervous. He walks out his bedroom only to be met with, nobody in the house? Their family cat, Obo, nudges Izuku from behind, urging him to continue walking to the kitchen. There, a fresh plate of pancakes and a glass of juice greets him. In front of the plate of food is a note. Good morning, little listener. Me and your dad will likely already be at Yui by the time you're reading this. We both wish you the best of luck on the entrance exam today. Don't skim on the breakfast and remember what your dad said. Love, your Pops. What Dad said? What did he mean by that? Izuku shakes it off. Instead he decides to indulge in his breakfast, a great way to start off a mediocre morning. But then he gets interrupted by none other than a knock at the door. He groans and walks to the front door, opening it up to find Shinso standing there. Hitoshi? It's 7 a.m., why are you here so early? I know that you'd probably be nervous as F, and might want to get in some extra training before the entrance exam. I'm not anxious, not at all. Izuku says, but it's not at all convincing. He's sweating bullets even though the AC is turned on. Yeah, right? Shinso glances inside his house. Finish your breakfast and let's go. Alright. Geez. 2 hours later, they've already gone through half the practice papers again and any and all possible hero course exam drills. Shinso seems to be dead on the couch by the time Izuku decides to take a break, even though he himself was still buzzing with energy. Izuku later tries to convince Shinso to train with him more only to be met with his own bedroom door slammed in his face. It's 10 a.m. now, and they're on their way to Yui for the entrance exam. They arrive at the front gates and Izuku is mesmerized by literally anything and everything even though he's seen it more times than he could count. Then he trips. Izuku braces himself for the fall but it never comes, he braces himself for Shinsu's teasing but that also never comes. He opens his eyes only to find a girl in front of him. Hello? Izuku asks, quite frankly, he's a bit confused about what the hell's happening. Hi. I'm so sorry for using my quirk on you unannounced but it's bad luck to trip on the day of an important exam, or at least that's what I've heard. The brown-haired girl replies, Izuku thinks she seems nice. Oh thank you, good luck on the exam. You too. Then the girl is gone. Shinso whistles. Wow, already getting girls aren't ya? It's not like that and you know it. They continued walking, this time with a different set of teasing coming from Shinso and Izuku has to hold himself back physically from punching Shinso in the face. They reach the exam hall and goes to their respective seats. Izuku is doing some last-minute revision at his assigned seat with his note cards when he hears a familiar voice from behind him, arguing loudly with some other examinees. He turns. Katsuki Bakugo. But thankfully, the blonde doesn't notice him and is instead focused on the argument. So, Izuku turns back to face the front, putting the thought of Katsuki Bakugo in the back of his head. He hopes that they won't run into each other anymore. After the written exam, a short break is given before each respective course takes their own exam. Izuku and Shinso meet up near the changing rooms for the Hero Course entrance exam, discussing their answers for the exam they've taken just now, and a sense of relief washes over them as they realize they have similar answers. If we go down, we go down together. A 5-minute warning bell is rung across campus, giving Shinso a cue to leave because his part of the exam is now over, and Izuku rushes to change into his activewear. He goes into the prep hall for a briefing in the exam just in the nick of time and finds a seat in the middle row. He sits down and listens to his pops, present Mike, explaining the exam rules and such. But to be honest, he's only half paying attention because his brain is in overdrive trying to come up with strategies to gain points. An examinee suddenly stands up, leading to Izuku regaining his focus. "Excuse me, present Mike sir. But you have only mentioned 3 of the robots in the exam when the exam paper states there will be 4. If this is an error, then I am deeply disappointed in the professionalism of this school." Izuku recognizes him as the examinee that Bakugo was arguing with. The blue-haired boy takes a breath, then continues. "And you there, with the green unbrushed hair. You have been muttering ever since this exam briefing has begun, and it is highly disturbing. If you are to not take this exam seriously, I suggest you to leave now." Izuku sits there, frozen. "Huh?" Then another voice booms through the prep hall. "Deku? What are you doing here dash?" But before Bakugo could finish his rant, Present Mick's voice cuts through the room and Izuku lets out a breath he didn't even know he was holding. "Everybody, settle down. Examinee 1908, by calling other examinees insulting names there will be a deduction on your score effective immediately. I suggest you keep your mouth shut before you get into any more trouble or have any other outbursts. And also, examinee 157, thank you for pointing that out. Yes, there indeed is a 4th robot, it is the 0-pointer, meaning even if you have defeated it you will not be rewarded with any points." Present Mike continues to drone on about more of the exam details, yet Izuku couldn't really pay any more mind to that. Instead he hopes that him and Bakugo aren't in the same exam venue. Izuku stands before the entrance exam gates. He's nervous, very nervous. But then again, what's every life-altering event without any nervousness? He takes a deep breath in and out, he prays to Kami that everything will go smoothly. Izuku looks around the entrance, gazing at his opponents mostly to size them up, and his eyes stop dead in their tracks when he sees a familiar brown bob. The girl from the gates. Izuku realizes. He notices the girl covering her mouth with her hand, her face green. She's obviously sick, why isn't anyone doing anything to help her? Izuku starts to move towards her when he is then stopped by one of the other examinees. He looks up only to see that same blue-haired boy from the prep hall. "Excuse me fellow examinee, but I must ask you to not go and disturb that girl over there. She is clearly trying to focus on the upcoming practical exam, and by going over there it will certainly distract her. This may lead to her being unconcentrated during the exam and not being able to perform her best." Izuku was honestly stunned. Not even Izuku would yap that much to his classmates in one breath, much less a complete stranger. She just seems sick, I just want to check on her and she was the one to hold me back from tripping, so I wanted to thank her. That's all, truly." Izuku managed to muster up every ounce of confidence he had to clear up the allegations. However, before Izuku could reach the brown-haired girl, the gates to the mock city opened, the exam had begun. Go time. Without hesitation, Izuku ran straight forward to the center of the mock city, leaving the rest of the examinees to ponder if they were even allowed to move yet. Some yelled behind him in fear that he'd get disqualified, some chuckled at Izuku's supposed stupidity for rushing inside and thinking that he's going to get into trouble. But not a second later, the speaker crackles to life and Aizawa's voice cuts through the mumbling of the examinees. "Stop wasting valuable time and get on with the exam, it has already started." Behind him, Izuku hears his dad's tired voice through the speakers. He suddenly feels incredibly grateful to his parents for telling him to run straight in after the gates had opened. The time it had taken the other examinees to reach Izuku was not long, maybe a minute or so. But in that short amount of time, Izuku had already taken down 2 two-pointers, earning himself a steady lead as he dived deeper into the mock city. Izuku continues to defeat the robots one by one, earning points with precision and carefulness instead of being plain reckless. In the back of his mind, the brown-haired girl keeps popping up, but he can only hope that she makes it through the exam safely. He tunes himself out and basically goes on autopilot, defeating robots with practiced ease, either by tearing the robots up with his telepathy quirk or simply immobilizing them by clogging its system with rain clouds. Halfway through, listeners, keep it up. Present mix voice booms through the city and Izuku just knows that he's not even using a microphone. Izuku slowly starts to retreat back to the exam gates. By now he has probably earned himself around 60 points, he thinks that it should technically be enough. How did he get to that conclusion? Well, Izuku might have gone online to do some digging on the current first year's exam results, giving him an average of the scores. No, those exam results weren't public records. But that's besides the point. By the time he had reached the middle front of the mock city, it had already been 10 minutes. He realized that he might have gone too far away. The ground starts to shake, pieces of broken cement and glass vibrate on the ground. The zero-pointer has been released. Izuku panics. From past entrance exams he studied, the main villain was usually released in the epicenter of the map, the area that he's fairly close to right now. So Izuku does the only thing he thinks of, making a cloud and floating away at Godspeed. Just as Izuku was about to get on the cloud, a yelp from behind jolts him enough to make him turn back. The moment he does, Izuku is filled with nothing but horror. The brown-haired girl from before stuck under rubble with the zero-pointer heading straight for her. Izuku's body moves without thinking, his desire to save the girl engulfs the warnings given to him by his parents. He has to save her. Another innocent life can't be lost because of him. Izuku was 6 years old when his case was finally closed. By now he had already been living with Aizawa and Yamada for a little under 2 years. Though everything seemed lovely and settled on the outside, the tragic passing of his mom and their case was still fresh in his mind. It was on one of those particularly rough nights where Izuku had horrible nightmares about his mom when he decided to go to the kitchen to get a glass of water. He reaches the corridor and stops right outside the closed kitchen door. Somebody was whispering in there. He holds his ear close to the door and holds his breath in, his curious nature getting the best of him in the end. He hears Aizawa speak in a hushed yet urgent tone to somebody seemingly important over the phone. We know that Aizu's mom was murdered by his dad because Izuku was being kept away from him. We know Aizu's dad's name and workplace, heck, we even have his personal phone number. What the F, do you mean we can't arrest him? Aizawa goes quiet, then begins again. So what if he's the almighty #1 villain in the world? Does that not give us even more reason to arrest him? Well then why don't we get David F. Shield to make a containment center for the guy? Aizawa was frustrated. Aizawa was frustrated because of his birth dad. His birth dad killed his mom. His birth dad killed his mom because of him. His mom is dead and it's all because of him. Izuku goes back to his room after that. He lays on his bed and ponders. Would his mom still be alive if it weren't for him? Maybe he shouldn't have been born after all. Help me. Somebody, please. The desperate cries of the brown-haired girl shakes him out of his memories. Izuku knows only one thing right now, and it is to save her no matter the cost. As he rushes towards the girl, he tries to use his telekinesis to move some of the larger rubble away. Unluckily for him, he had already exhausted his quirk for the day, making him only able to move lightweight objects with his mind. Even so, he moves away the lighter rubble from the girl, hoping to give her more space to move and eventually squeeze out. But then he looks up and the zero-pointer is basically almost right to his face. He has to get rid of it, and quickly. He tries to use his telekinesis again, but instead of being able to move it, he moves himself. Izuku is shocked. He's being lifted by his own quirk and directed by his own mind to go wherever he pleases. He didn't know he could do that. But the shock doesn't last long. He managed to land onto the zero-pointer, yet the harsh impact caused a striking pain in his foot. Despite it, he winds up his cloud quirk to use it to fill the gaps between the robot's limbs with rain clouds to make it rain, causing a malfunction and hopefully for it to shut down like with the smaller ones. To his saving grace, the plan works, to an extent. As the robot malfunctions, the limbs begins to falter, the robot puts one leg over the other, trying to walk away from the mess it created when it trips over one of the lighter rubble Izuku had moved. Still being on the zero-pointer, Izuku began to have a malfunction of his own, his mind a blank slate on what to do. As Izuku falls, he accepts his fate of dying before even making it into Yui. Sorry Dad and Pops, I tried I guess. Then he gets slapped mid-air. He stops falling. Izuku looks over to see the girl had wiggled herself free from the rubble and used her quirk on him once again. The girl chuckled. Well, I guess we're even now. Izuku said lightheartedly, and the girl could only give him a resounding laugh back. On the way back, Izuku and the brown-haired girl walk side by side, arms thrown over each other's shoulders as support beams for each other's injured legs. The other examinees looked more impressed than horrified as the duo walked past them but made no attempt to try to help them. A sign of respect, if you will. Once they arrived in Recovery Girl's office, Izuku and the brown-haired girl, who he now knew the name of, Yururika, got separated into different sides of the room. Recovery Girl tended to Yururika's injury first since she only had minor injuries compared to those of Izuku. When she eventually left, they exchanged phone numbers for when they eventually got into Yui. Izuku remembers that Yururika had specifically told him that it's not if they enter Yui or not, it's when, to which Izuku had responded with a grin on his face. Then he was knocked out cold by Recovery Girl's Quirk. When Izuku eventually woke up, Aizawa and Yamada were sitting next to the bed. "Dad? Pops? How long have I been out for?" Aizawa looked at him, deadpanned, then hit his head right in the middle. "I thought we told you not to be reckless. And what did you do during the exam? Be reckless." "Dad, I had to. She was going to get crushed by the robot and I was not going to let that happen on my watch." "Yeah, well, none of the Yui staff members would have let that happen. We have surveillance all around." "Well, look, little listener. You're not in too much trouble, we just hope that there isn't going to be another next time again." Yamada finally chimed in. He has been suspiciously quiet throughout the whole time. Izuku nodded his head. Pang. The door slammed open. "Izuku, you mother foo dash." A sleep-deprived Shinso barges inside. As he looks around the room, he catches sight of a familiar black and yellow-haired duo. He hadn't realized that Aizawa and Yamada were there. I mean, of course they were, why wouldn't they be? Fudger, mother fudger. Shinso finishes, trying to regain his composure. But by then, Aizawa and Yamada had already caught on and decided to leave the room. "Shinso?" Yamada inquires. "Yes, Yamada-san? Go all out." Yamada gives one final instruction then walks out along with Aizawa. The latter looks about to burst into laughter at any given moment. So that's what his pops had planned. He knew Shinso would show up unannounced after receiving the news. Izuku was a goner. For sure. The door slammed shut not a moment later and Izuku sharply inhaled in preparation for Shinso's lecture. "What the hell were you actually thinking? That zero-pointer was 164 feet tall. 30 times your height. Hitoshi, you don't understand dash." "No, I understand perfectly fine. You put your life in the line of fire because your need to save people always exceeds your self-preservation. Izuku, what you don't understand is that if you keep going at it like this, you will die." Izuku's eyes widened, tears already forming in his eyes, yet he remained silent. It makes Shinso all the more mad. It's clear that he still hasn't understood the gravity of this situation. He doesn't understand that he won't do anybody good by being so reckless. He doesn't understand. Shinso knows what he has to do. It's going to hurt, but he knows he has to be the one to do it. "I'm sorry, Izuku, but this has to happen. You won't learn unless something actually changes." He takes a deep breath as he carefully chooses his next words. "Wake up, Izuku. Don't you realize how selfish you are being? Stop trying to be such a martyr and get off your high horse. Think about what I said today, and I mean really think about it. Don't talk to me until it gets through that big head of yours." Izuku's eyes widened again. "What?" Izuku begins to sit up, but every little movement just makes him hurt. Recovery Girl's Quirk really tired his body out. "Hitoshi, what?" "No, wait, you can't be serious, right?" "I'm serious." Shinso turns and leaves the room, leaving Izuku all alone. Izuku doesn't understand, not really. Why was everyone so against him saving people? Yeah, he got hurt, but that's what it takes to save people. Right? Shinso steps out of the room. Bits of tears have already started to build up in his eyes. He sits on the bench outside of Recovery Girl's office and puts his head in his hands. What did he do? Deep down, Shinso knows that this might have been a little too extreme, but he had to do it, for Izuku's own good. He continues to try and calm himself down when he feels a hand on his shoulder. Shinso looks up to see Aizawa standing next to him. "I messed up, Aizawa-san." The older man raises his eyebrows, trying to inquire more about the situation. "I told Aizu to stop talking to me until he finally realizes that being a hero doesn't mean he has to get fatally injured every time and that he doesn't always have to save everybody. What if he stops talking to me forever? I was just so mad and worried because I don't want to lose my best friend, not ever. Hitoshi, I've been where you are and I'll be honest with you, you did what I would have done." Shinso actually looked shocked at that. It's not exactly a confirmation that he did the right thing, because he probably didn't, or so he thinks, but it's the shared sentiment that matters. He remains silent as he gives Aizawa the time to think and elaborate on what he's saying. Izuku is stubborn, he always has been. Shinso chuckles, that's an understatement for sure. But what I'm getting at here is that he's probably never going to fully grasp that lesson. His martyr complex stems from his past to which he'll probably never get rid of. I understand the feeling of wanting to save him from himself. Like I said, I've been there. You making him feel like he's lost his safe person isn't the best thing. But it means that you've stopped enabling his behavior. Honestly, in Izuku's case, it's the best and most effective solution to getting him rethink everything. Shinso honestly believes that Aizawa is full of infinite wisdom because who else could come up with that? You don't think he'll actually get mad at me, right? You should know the answer to that, Hitoshi. If you don't, then I might have misjudged your position as Izuku's best friend. The corners of Shinsu's mouth lift slightly. He does know the answer. How long do you think he'll last without talking to me? Less than a week, for sure. Shinso chuckles, tears from before stained the corner of his eyes. The real question is if you are going to follow through with the punishment? Aizawa teases. I'll try, for the sake of ending this cycle. Shinso smiles as he replies to Aizawa. Grabbing his bag, he starts to leave, wanting to go home after such an exhausting day. I'll text you updates with Izuku and how he's healing up. Thank you, Aizawa-san, truly. With that, Shinso turns and leaves, turning out of the corridor towards the exit. Izuku is still in shock when he finally registers that both his parents are beside him again. Come on kid, let's start heading home. Aizawa says, and Izuku could only blindly follow his instructions. He goes to sit in the wheelchair with his phone in hand. Every text he sends to Shinso is met with a read receipt sheet. He's actually following through with it. The walk to the parking lot was silent. Nobody really had much to say after all that's happened. You don't actually understand how fatal your injuries are, don't you? Aizawa says as he walks beside Izuku. Izuku shakes his head. Izuku, you fractured your leg in 3 separate places. Some pieces of your bone were cracked so small it would have been impossible to heal you correctly if it weren't for Recovery Girl and her quirk. You wouldn't have been able to use your leg fully again if not for her. Aside from that, you overexhausted your telekinesis, giving you multiple migraines at the same time, which will last up to 5 days. Recovery Girl says if you keep that up then the migraines will become permanent. Izuku stared at his dad in shock. Shit, that sounds horrible. No wonder Hitoshi was so sad. To his horror, his dad was not quite done yet. Aside from that, didn't I tell you to not use your cloud quirk so much during the exam, or did you forget that clouds are made up of water? Your clouds specifically come from the water in your body. You were severely dehydrated. I don't know how you managed to stay upright for so long. Izuku gulps. Maybe he does understand why Hitoshi was so mad. He himself would be too if Hitoshi got this hurt. He's still not going to apologize for saving a person. Aizawa and Yamada glance at each other briefly, both knowing that they have the exact same thought circulating in their mind right now. Oh Izuku, you stubborn child. You still don't understand, do you? When they finally get home, Izuku freshens up and wheels himself to his room. He thinks about trying to text Hitoshi again, but he knows he's probably going to be hit with the same response. Nothing, utterly nothing. Izuku thinks that he's actually kind of lonely. His only friend is Hitoshi after all. However, not even a second later, Aizawa and Yamada comes knocking on his door. Seeing as to what has already happened today, Izuku thinks that he might actually be better off being lonely. We're not here to yell at you or to scold you. You probably got enough of that from Shinso. Yamada starts. He treads lightly when mentioning Shinsu's name, knowing that they're going through a cold war of their own right now. Then what did you guys want to talk about? Izuku responds. He has absolutely no idea on how this will go. Have you given a thought as to what Shinso said to you yet? Aizawa jumps straight to the point, straightforward like always. Oh. So that's what this is about. Yeah, I still don't get it. What's so wrong with me saving people? That's what heroes do, isn't it? Izuku asks. He seems genuinely confused. It's not that saving people that is wrong. Saving others is always the right thing to do, hero or jot. It's the way you save them. You embrace every injury like it's always been part of the plan since always without a second thought. The problem child's head spins as Aizawa continues to explain to Izuku that he should have better self-preservation skills. After a while, the idea finally gets into Izuku's head. He doesn't really grasp it yet, but at least a seed is planted within him. And maybe, just maybe it will grow into something bigger. Bonus. Shinso, I'm going to follow through with it, Aizawa-san. Also Shinso, this reel is funny, gonna send it to Izuku. Wait. This happens multiple times. Once he had to call Aizawa at 2 a.m. to get him to delete some brainrot reel off Izuku's phone. He's lucky Aizawa hadn't gone on patrol yet at that time. This was more fun in my head. Izuku thought as he hung upside down on his bed frame. Honestly, he's bored out of his mind. With the amount of preparation needed to be done for the new school year, Aizawa and Yamada haven't been home as much, which is normal. In the past, he'd usually be hanging out with Shinso, but not this year. This year he's alone. It's been a week since the entrance exam and Izuku keeps replaying the scene in his head, the one where Shinso told him to not talk to him. He's not mad at Shinso, but he's hurt that Shinso gave up on him so easily. It's not fair? Of course, by now Izuku has understood the lesson, where he went wrong and what could have been done better. Aizawa and Yamada made sure of that. But Shinso is not just going to believe his word so easily. Shinso trusts him, but he also knows Izuku, and so he knows he has to prove that he understands the lesson by showing him. But for now, all he can do is lie on his bed, or rather hang from his bed frame, and contemplate life. Ping. His phone that was on his desk pinged, alerting Izuku of a message, and he eventually managed to get off his bed after struggling for a bit. He grabbed his phone off his desk, curious as to who is texting him. His parents are at work and they don't usually text him during work hours. Shinso is MIA, so who is it? Izuku clicks open the messaging app to find that Achiko Uraraka has texted him. He wraps his head to figure out who that was. The migraine from before did him no favor. He was so out of it after the exam, he didn't remember much. He went to look at her profile picture and that's when it clicked, the girl that saved me in the entrance exam. With that figured out, he went to read her message. Achiko Uraraka. Hey Midoriya-kun. It's Uraraka from the UE entrance exam. Results are out today. Have you received them yet? Did you get in? Face savoring food, face savoring food. Huh? Izuku scrambles to the front door, caught off guard by the suddenness of this news. He rushes to the mailbox, almost tripping on himself on the way. Izuku grabs all the mail inside and rushes back to his house. Laying all the mail on the table, Izuku scurries to find Yui's letter. Why do we have so much mail? Did nobody take it in? Izuku was supposed to do it, it's one of his chores. Finally, after a bit of frantically pushing letters back and forth, he finally found it. He finally found the letter. He gently rips the letter open, careful as to not damage the content inside. To his surprise, what fell out wasn't an ordinary piece of paper. It was a disc. This just got a whole lot of confusing for Midoriya Izuku. Before he could even start tinkering with it, a rectangle hologram was projected and a screen sputtered alive. Izuku was honestly really confused. He's never seen anything like this. Suddenly, a white-furred animal popped up in the middle of the screen. Hello Izuku Midoriya, I'm Nizu. The one who could be a dog or a mouse or a bear, but more importantly, I'm the principal of UE. Did he just call his principal an animal? Is he even an animal? Let us review your entrance exam scores, shall we? First off, the written exam. Incredulously, you are the third highest ranked examinee, scoring an amazing 87%. But that's not all that we are here for today, because we still have the practical portion of the exam. Izuku is sweating bullets. He feels like he's about to explode if he doesn't get to know if he'd made it into UE in the next minute or so. Before that, let us watch a clip. Principal Nizu steps aside as a video recording plays out. Wait, a screen inside a screen? The video recording shows the brown-haired girl, Uraraka, standing before Present Mike. She talked about how Izuku had saved her when everybody else ran, when everybody else did nothing. She talked about the fear she felt when she thought nobody would come to rescue her as the zero-pointer announced its looming presence. Izuku's eyes welled up with tears. He didn't know he made such an impact on her. The Uraraka in the video continued, offering her own points to give to Izuku himself just because she felt bad for taking up the rest of his time and for the fatal injury he had suffered. Izuku was touched. He was so incredibly touched by her action, and he knew Present Mike was too because of the look on his face. Sadly, Present Mike had to decline her offer of giving up some of her points. The exams were over and scores were finalized. Even so, scores couldn't be given away so easily. The video ends and suddenly Principal Nizu is back in the middle of the screen again. Now that you have watched that video, let's get on to the highlight of this hologram video. Izuku Midoriya, you have scored a total of 110 points, making you the top scorer in the history of UE High School. Let's break it down. Scores are divided into two subcategories, villain points and hero points. For villain points, you've gotten 50 points. But because you rescued that girl, an additional 60 points were rewarded to you. Full-on tears are running down Izuku's face now. He couldn't believe it, his inner child screaming with joy. He did it, he actually did it. Izuku Midoriya, it is my honor to welcome you to your hero academia. I especially look forward to seeing you in the new school year. For the next few minutes, nothing feels real. It was as if he became a ghost, hovering around the house but not really in it. He was in a daze, unconsciously moving to the couch before he could accidentally hurt himself. Izuku baby, I'm so proud of you. Somewhere distant, Izuku could hear his mom's voice, calling to him, congratulating him on achieving something this significant. Then Izuku woke up. A tinge of sadness hit him as he realized that his mom will never be able to celebrate things like this with him. Mom, thank you, I hope I made you proud. Izuku thought. He grabbed his phone to reply to Uraraka after leaving her on read accidentally. His next line of thought was to call Shinso, but after all that's happened last week, he decided to divert his call to Shinsu's household phone instead, praying that it was Shinso who picked up. But instead, it was Shinsu's mom who picked up. Hello? This is Shinsu's residency, you are speaking with Kasumi Shinso, how may I help you? Oh, hello Kasumi-san. It's Izuku Midoriya calling, may I speak with Hitoshi? I'm afraid Hitoshi isn't home right now Izuku-kun, he went out for a walk but isn't back yet. Oh, thank you Kasumi-san, goodbye. Goodbye Izuku-kun, make sure you visit soon alright. Sure will. Izuka thought Shinsu's mom is always a delight to talk to, he loved their little chats, but this time he had to cut it short, he has someone who's waiting on him. A walk huh? Izuku knows exactly where Shinso is, he texts his dads about his plans and practically runs out of his house. He goes to take the train and runs, he runs until he's there. Takoba Beach. As he reaches the entrance to the, now spotless, beach, he's met with confusion when a certain purple-headed insomniac isn't there. Izuku walks forward to the shore, hoping that Shinso was just taking a dive in the water or something. But no, he wasn't there. He sits down right before the shoreline, arms crossed over his knees. He really did think Shinso would be here. A glimmer in the body of water suddenly caught his eye. Izuku had to double-check to see if it really was a genuine glimmer and not the sunlight reflecting off the ocean. He stood up and walked towards it, the glimmer shining brighter each step he took. When he's finally reached the glimmer, the legs of his shorts are soaked in water, he reaches out only for the glitter to materialize. A glass bottle? He holds it up and finally realizes what it was. It wasn't just any bottle, it was a messenger bottle. Specifically, the one he and Shinso used to play with. They kinda had a pirate phase when they were young from this old pre-Quirk movie Yamada had collected, something called Pirates of the Caribbean? Izuku went back up to where the shoreline was, sat back down and carefully pulled the cork out of the bottle, careful not to damage it. He took the piece of paper out and unwound the string. It was a letter from Shinso. It read, Izuku, I told you to not talk to me until you've learned your lesson didn't I? Surely a week is not enough time, you can't just say sorry and pretend everything can go back to normal, not this time at least. FYI I got into UE, the General Studies course. See you there doofus, maybe by then you'd have at least understood your lesson. Hitoshi. Welp, Hitoshi really did see through his plan. Izuku sighed, stood up and turned to leave. That's enough adventures for one day. Besides, he knows that he and Shinso are bound to make up someday so he isn't all that worried. Somewhere behind the electrical box at the front of the beach, there stood a wild Shinso Hitoshi breathing a sigh of relief. Shinso had meant to leave right after leaving the message, knowing Izuku would definitely find it and soon. He may or may not have wiretapped his home phone today just for this reason. Right after leaving the bottle, Shinso couldn't help but stand there in front of the shore, he didn't know why but he just did it. That's honestly just how it is sometimes, like all brains, they'll have a mind of their own and there's nothing you can do about it. His phone pinged when Izuku was about 50 meters away, no doubt approaching his destination at a quickening pace. Shinso knew he didn't have enough time to run away so he did the next best thing to do. He hid. And it worked like a charm. Izuku returned home with a sigh, his face disappointed that his plan failed. By then it was 6 p.m. already. Aizawa had been released from his teacher duties early for him to rest before his hero duties, and therefore is at home. While Yamada is stuck in a pile of paperwork. What's got you looking so down? Aizawa asked in his usual deadpan voice that is just a bit more sluggish than usual. He was in his iconic yellow sleeping bag in the middle of the living room. I failed to talk to Hitoshi today. Because he doesn't think you've learned your lesson. Izuku nods solemnly and walks to his room slouching. Izuku, sit by me. Izuku turned his head, a bit weary but still went over. I need to tell you a story. Izuku raises an eyebrow. In the back of Aizawa's head, he notes that it's exactly what he did when talking to Shinso last week. He really is my kid after all. Do you remember that friend I talked about? The one whose grave we visit every year? Hesitant, Izuku nods, he's not sure where his dad is going with this. His name was Oboro Shirakumo, we went to UE together. He died in our second year when a building collapsed on him. Izuku's face turned from confusion to horror in a matter of moments, he knew that Shirakumo was dead, he knew that he had been for a while. What he didn't know was that Shirakumo was still a student when he died. A UE student. Izuku was stunned into silence, not that he was silent already. He didn't know what to say, so Aizawa took it as a cue to continue. He died because he was crushed by falling debris from a collapsing building. Do you know why he died? Because, he got hit by falling debris. Izuku answered, but he wasn't sure of his answer. Realistically, yes. But it was also because of his mentality. The day of his death, we were patrolling the streets when a group of children saw us, so we hung out with them for a bit. Later in the day when the villain attack happened, those same kids were caught in the epicenter of it. Izuku was absolutely horrified, those poor children. Oboro was so focused on getting the children out of the building, he forgot to look after himself first. The children ended up getting out safely, but Oboro did not, there 1 second and gone the next. Oh, God. Tears had formed in Izuku's eyes by now, his Midoriya genes kicking in before he could control himself. Izuku, what I'm getting at here is that Shinso is trying to do you good. He's not avoiding you on purpose, he's trying to save you from yourself, from being the next Oboro. Aizawa glanced at Izuku sitting next to him, hands covering his face as he tried to prevent more years from coming down his face. His body moved before he could think, he sat up, putting his arms around his child and holding him tightly. A tear ran down his face, Aizawa's face. If only Oboro was still alive, because he would have adored Izuku. The father and son duo continued in this hugging position for a while. When Yamada finally arrived home, the two had fallen asleep on the ground, Izuku's eyes red and puffy, no doubt having cried just moments before. Aizawa was still in his yellow sleeping bag, likely going to miss his patrol. But Yamada couldn't bring himself to wake them up, so instead, he makes the silent decision of letting Aizawa take a break off patrol today and goes to make dinner for them all. It was 9 p.m. when Yamada finally finished cooking dinner. He went over to the living room to shake his husband and son up. When they finally regained consciousness, they were so dazed that one could say they were drunk. They ate in silence, too tired to keep casual conversation with nothing important to actually say. The normality of tonight since the past week of events is strangely smoothing. Time really does pass by quickly because before Izuku knew it, he was merely hours away from his first day as a high school student at Yui. The night before Izuku was stressing, he quadruple-checked if his pencil case had enough stationery and not to mention the outrageous number of times he checked his school bag to see if he had missed something. The sight of this only made Aizawa and Yamada sigh. This happened on the night before every school year, but this year Izuku really did take it to the next level. Kid, go to sleep or else you won't have any energy tomorrow. But Dad, what if I forget to pack something and I need that something during class? Everybody would see how unprepared I am. Izuku, you're overthinking it, go to bed. Yamada chimed in, already preparing a glass of warm milk for Izuku because he knows for a fact Izuku won't be able to fall asleep easily tonight. It was like a cat fight. The two pro-heroes struggled to get the teenager to go to bed as the teen protested. Yamada was in the midst of his sleep is important speech when he realized Izuku had already passed out next to his school bag. Aizawa chuckled, presumably about to make a snarky comment about how Yamada's speech made Izuku fall asleep. But instead, Aizawa picked up his problem child and carried him to his bed. Kids really do grow up fast. Sleep well, problem child, tomorrow's a big day. Aizawa whispered to himself, turning off the lights before leaving Izuku's room, his Eraserhead-themed nameplate swinging a bit from the movement of the door. The next morning Izuku was buzzing with excitement. He couldn't believe it, he's actually a Yui student now. After he got ready for school, he went to the kitchen for breakfast. As he rounded the corner though, nobody was in sight, not even the cats. Confused about where his parents were, Izuku decided to check the time. It was 5 a.m. School doesn't start until 8:30 a.m. Yamada and Aizawa usually aren't awake until 7 a.m. So, yeah. Izuku might have woken up a tad bit earlier than anticipated. To avoid waking his parents up, he went back to his room as quietly as possible. With nothing to do, he sat on his desk chair and gazed out of his window, trying hard to not wrinkle his uniform. Ping! Izuku glanced over to where his phone rested on his desk. A notification from his messaging app appeared and he wondered who was possibly awake at this time, well aside from him. He picked up his phone and opened up the message, then his eyes widened in shock. New message, Hitoshi. You awake? Oh my god. Hitoshi? Quickly, he typed a response back to Shinsu, afraid he'd lose this window of opportunity to talk to Shinso. Hitoshi. You awake? Yeah. What's up? The typing bubble for Shinso appeared and disappeared over and over again. Izuku was growing more anxious by the minute. Hitoshi. You awake? Yeah. What's up? We need to talk, can I come over? MK, see you. Izuku responded without thinking, something he probably should have done, but this wasn't the first time Shinso came over unannounced. Welp. 10 minutes later, Shinso stood on the porch of Izuku's house, hesitating if he should even knock or not. Before Shinso could generate a conclusion, the front door swung open and there stood Izuku. Hitoshi, hi. Hi to you too. Now are you going to let me in or what? Alright, sorry, okay, come in. The two stifled awkwardly towards the couch. It was painfully quiet and even the cats that appeared from out of nowhere seemed to feel the tenseness as well. This is weird, Hitoshi, this isn't like us. Yeah. Shinso took a deep breath. Izuku, I'm sorry for reacting harshly, cutting you off was extreme but I don't know how else you would have learnt your lesson, you are too reckless and selfless for your own good. You gave me a wake-up call, Hitoshi, don't apologize. I know I'm reckless, I'll try to be more careful, but honestly I'll probably still get really hurt sometimes. I'll make sure those sometimes are not going to become most of the times though. That's good enough for me. So, are we good now, Hitoshi? I'd say so, Greenie. Izuku gave a soft smile to Shinso, they were so fing back. Not to ruin this moment but what the F, are you guys doing up at 5:40 a.m. in the morning? And why is Shinso here? A third voice emerged from the shadows. Aizawa. The suddenness of Aizawa speaking caught both teenagers off guard, both jumping at the voice. Sorry Dad, did we wake you? Yes. But I was up either way so that's fine. Oh, okay. I'm assuming you guys made up? Both teenagers nod and Aizawa's expression softens. Good, now take a nap or something, it's way too early for this. When the two pro-heroes finally woke up and finished getting ready, breakfast had already been served by their restless problem child. Aizawa sighed at the sight of food on the counter, Yamada laughed at his reaction and Shinso looked like he tried to stop Izuku but gave up midway. Oh Izuku. The three of them sat down at the dining table and ate slowly, knowing that rushing was unnecessary while Izuku scarfed up his breakfast and finished washing the dishes. Half an hour later, all four of them got into Aizawa's car and began their ride to Yui. When Izuku and Shinso arrived, it was only 8 a.m. and they had an extra 30 minutes to spare. The duo walked around campus mindlessly. Occasionally, Izuku would run into some teachers he knew and they would have a short conversation, leaving Shinso to stand awkwardly off to the side before Izuku resumes his stroll with Shinso. Izuku and Shinso soon part ways to head to their own classrooms to avoid being late. Standing in front of Class 1A, Izuku felt overwhelmed. I mean, what kind of door is as tall as the ceiling? Taking a deep breath to calm himself down, he pushed open the door to find literally everybody staring at him. The classroom couldn't be more quiet. What? Finally, it was a voice from behind him who broke the silence. Midoriya-kun. Hi. Remember me? Oh hello Uraraka-kun, how've you been? His words came out shaky and nervous despite trying to act normal. Suddenly, a familiar blue-haired teen walked over to Izuku and tapped Izuku on the shoulder. Good morning Midoriya-kun. I am Ida Tenya and I sincerely apologize for my unhero-like behavior during the exam. I failed to see past the pretenses of the entrance exam and acted unjustly. Why is he speaking like a robot? It's alright Ida-kun, nobody could have foresaw what would happen. You are quite humble Midoriya-kun, it is no wonder you are the top scorer for the entrance exam, I must catch up to you then. I'm the what for what now? Genuine confusion was explicitly shown in Izuku's face, was that something he should have known? Before Ida could reply, a sharp tired voice cut through the air. If you are just here to make friends then you can pack up your stuff now. That voice, Izuku knew that voice. Izuku turned around and peeked behind Uraraka, where he saw it. The hideous yellow sleeping bag. Eraserhead? Aizawa raised an eyebrow. At Yui, it's Aizawa-sensei to you Midoriya. At that moment, everybody in that room formed the exact same thought in their head. That's our teacher? Why yes sensei. Go take your seats. Izuku, Ida and Uraraka speed walked to their respective seats, hurrying to avoid another confrontation. It took you all 8 seconds to shut up, that's not going to work. Time is valuable. Aizawa scanned the classroom then made a choice. First order of business, we're switching seats. Shoji, switch with Yayorozu. Mineta, you switch with Midoriya. Tokoyami, switch with Todoroki. Lastly, Ojiro, switch with Mina. Seating chart, now. Uraraka Sato Tokoyami Shoji. Ida Kota Todoroki Midoriya. Tsuyu Kirishima Siro Mineta. Ojiro Denki Jairu Bakugu. Aoyama Mina Yayorozu Hagakure. The students with their names called all silently changed seats, not questioning their new sensei's decision one bit. For one, Izuku was insanely grateful that he didn't have to sit next to Bakugu. As the students finally began to settle down again, Aizawa took something out from his yellow sleeping bag. Now that that's over with, put these on and head outside. Aizawa says as he holds up their gym uniforms. Without a second thought, everybody rushed to get their uniforms to change into. Once on the field, the students were met with another surprise. Let's start off with a quirk assessment test, show me everything you've got and don't hold back. From there, we'll measure your capabilities and work on improvements. A quirk apprehension test? A large number of students proclaimed. Shocked was an understatement in this case. What about orientation, sensei? Won't we miss it? The hero course is not subject to the normal school curriculum. As your teacher, I'm able to run my class as I see fit. Alright, enough chit-chat. Midoriya, you got the highest score in the entrance exam, throw this ball without using your quirk. Aizawa holds the ball out for Izuku to grab. Steadily, Izuku walks to the designated throwing area and throws the ball with all his might. 75 meters. Now, throw it with your quirk. With the ball in hand, Izuku uses his cloud quirk to create some wind clouds as a propeller for the ball whilst also using telekinesis to throw the ball as far as possible. The ball propelled through the air and flew far and high with the help of the wind from the clouds. 2,583 meters. The rest of the class gasped in amusement, jaws dropping onto the floor one by one. Not even Bakugo could hide his surprised expression. Well, that's not too bad. It looks kind of fun, doesn't it? Uraraka said to the green-haired girl next to her in an attempt to lighten the mood and think positive. Unfortunately, that backfired. Fun, you say? Well, why not create higher stakes? If you score the lowest on this quirk apprehension test, you will be expelled from the hero course. Everybody widened their eyes in shock. Things were getting real. For the next hour or so, this class of 20 hero students worked tirelessly and surpassed their limits, all in an attempt to not get kicked out of the hero course. In the end, Minoru Mineta scored the least amount of points, garnering him the last place on the quirk apprehension test. Before Mineta could start spewing reasons as to why he shouldn't be kicked out, Aizawa laughed out loud. That was a logical ruse. I had no plans of expelling any one of you, not right now. But it is clear you all still have much to work on. Go freshen up, before your next class. Mineta sighed in relief. Thank God. Izuku looked at the scoreboard to find himself in third place. First place was Yaoyorozu. Izuku had noticed that she had a creation quirk. He was definitely going to ask her a few questions later. Second place was Todoroki, Endeavor's youngest son. The dual-headed teen remained stoic throughout the test, unleashing his ice with practiced ease. For some reason Izuku feels as if there's something more to his quirk, but he just couldn't figure out what it was. The even stranger thing was, Todoroki seemed familiar to him, like he had seen him somewhere before. For now though, he'll just have to put this thought into the back burner. Growing up in the Todoroki household, Shoto was trained to be perceptive. Over the years of training, it had become a second nature to him. Because if he was caught off guard, Lord knows what would have happened. When Izuku Midoriya had first entered the classroom, Shoto only thought he was just like any other one of his classmates, loud, chatty and a plain old distraction. But then Aizawa-sensei showed up and Shoto could tell it changed something inside Izuku. It was like there was a sense of familiarity between those two. Something weird is going on and Shoto knows it, but this was not his business after all. He had not been forced to come to Yui to make friends. He was here to become a hero, to surpass All Might or whatever his father's wishes are. Midoriya, stay behind for a bit. Aizawa said as the class was just starting to walk away. All but old Midoriya ran away within seconds after Aizawa finished his sentence. What's up, sensei? Goated feel seared Collinjout hat. Izuku mumbled out, conscious to call his dad by the right title. Yes, problem child, it's weird. Let's get back to business. Can you keep an eye on Mineta for me? Izuku raises his eyebrows but nods. He has never questioned his dad's judgment. He has no reason to. Okay, now scram. I'm not writing a late slip for you if you're late. See you later, sensei. Izuku bolts. When Izuku reaches the changing rooms, he goes to his locker and changes as swiftly as he could manage. Usually Izuku is a fast changer, but not when there's a tie involved. He fumbles with it a bit until he thinks that it looks semi-decent. But a dog could tie a tie better than him. Just a few moments later, as everybody who was fully dressed and ready to leave begins to gather their things and walk out, Mineta calls out to them. Hey dudes, get a load of this view. Mineta says in an awfully horn voice. Izuku actually cringed hearing it. He turns around to see what Mineta is looking at only to see him peek through a hole in the wall. What view, Mineta? We're in a building. You know, inside. Zero snarkily replies. He walks out the door before he could even hear Mineta's response. Opposite of this wall is heaven. It's the girls' changing room. You can see everything with this hole, Tsuyu's slim waist, Uraraka's butt, most of all, Momo's b-dash. Izuku's eyes widened, disgust and anger filling inside of him. What a fing pervert? Before Mineta could finish his sentence, an ear jack plugs the hole in the wall and stabs Mineta in the eye. We can all hear you, you perverted butt. Opposite the wall, Jairu replies. My EYE, what the hell? Guys help me out dash. Mineta turns from the wall, only to see the remaining boys in the locker room looking as unhero-like as one hero in training could look. Izuku walks forward and Mineta thinks he's his saving grace, rescuing him from getting beaten up. That thought was completely shut down when Izuku started dragging Mineta out of the locker room by his collar. Midoriya, let go of me, dude. Brothers before hoes, right? Right? Izuku doesn't even justify that with a response. Before long, Izuku arrives back to his homeroom where they saw Aizawa in his sleeping bag on the ground, like a cocoon that's not yet ready to hatch. A few of his classmates, including Ida, who finished changing early, looked horrified at the sight of Mineta getting dragged around by the collar. Ida, like the dignified person he was, began to speak up, but was then quickly shot down before he even uttered a word by Izuku calling out to their sensei with an unusually stern voice, one that completely awoke Aizawa. "Sensei," Izuku said. "I believe we have amongst ourselves a pervert in disguise of a hero course student." Izuku continued with his stern and scarily serious tone, but Aizawa was already out of his yellow sleeping bag and standing in front of the two students. "Aizawa-sensei. I was attacked by Jairu and Midoriya Kun, they should get in trouble not me dash. Good work Midoriya. As for you, Mineta, we'll be taking a trip to Principal Nizu's office." Aizawa had cut off Mineta, using his capture tape to carry him away. Izuku took a sigh of relief and turned to face his classmates. Most of them were caught off guard to say the least. Who knew that the sweetest-looking boy in class had this side of him? They can't even imagine how Izuku would act when facing off villains, God knows what he'd do to them. Slowly, the rest of the class that were still in the locker room piled in bit by bit, settling back into their seats before the next lesson started. The next class was English with Present Mic, and it went about as well as you'd expect for a couple of first years after enduring Aizawa's gruesome tests with their brains not completely functioning due to the exhaustion. Present Mike started rapid-firing English, speaking nonstop. Honestly, if Mike hadn't been teaching Izuku English since he became his son, then Izuku wouldn't even have caught a third of what he said. Which was why the entire class looked a tad confused at the assignment. Which was to introduce yourself in English to the whole class. Present Mike sighed and restarted his entire speech, twice as slow this time. This course of action repeated about as many times before the class finally ended and the students were released to break. Izuku bolts out of the classroom as soon as he was released, undoubtedly to go and get Shinso caught up. Which left a confused Ida and Uraraka behind. Izuku definitely forgot that he had more friends to account for now. Izuku reaches almost to Class 1C when he sees the messy purple-haired insomniac he had been looking for. "You'll never believe it. Present Mike is my homeroom teacher," Shinso says to Izuku, looking as excited as he could without moving a muscle on his face. And somehow Izuku understands it. Okay, but Eraserhead is my homeroom teacher." Shinso's eyes widened, he honestly kinda felt bad for his best friend. "Didn't see your class at orientation, what's up with that? Aizawa-sensei made us do a quirk apprehension test or something like that." "Arrest on the first day? Damn, he's not letting up, isn't he?" "He never does." Shinso and Izuku strolls the corridor as they continue their conversation. They've honestly forgotten that there were other students here. Bakugo has been awfully quiet since seeing Deku in his homeroom, even more so when Deku's FING dad turns out to be his homeroom teacher. What a great FING start to becoming a hero, am I right? Bakugo sits in his seat, alone, silent. Anything but his middle school self. In Yui, he doesn't have mindless idiots following him around, he wasn't praised like a prodigy, he wasn't special. He was just like any other student. A hero student. Bakugo is lonely and he doesn't like it. Just look at Deku, freakin' nerd has been here for the same time as him and he's FING popular and sheet with the class for doing a decent thing. Bakugo feels lost. And it's such a shitty feeling. But what the F can he do now? It's not like he can waltz up to Deku and act all buddy-buddy with him. No, he can't. Not after everything. The first day of high school was over in a blink of an eye and Izuku started to pack up. He would say today was a fruitful day, he made friends, paid attention in class, tasted the best katsudon in his life and had minimal homework to do. So, yeah. Today was nice. As he walked out of the classroom, his phone pinged with a message from Shinso, telling him to go home by himself because he got held back by ectoplasm. Damn, it's only the first day of school. Izuku wonders if Shinso got into some trouble, but that thought was quickly thrown out the window. This was Yui, it's not the same as junior high. He shook off that thought and began to walk towards the gates. As he walked, he felt a gaze staring at the back of his head, prompting him to turn said head around. He was met with a serious-looking Ida. "Midoriya-kun, may we walk together? I have some business to discuss with you." Ida's voice was so monotone, Izuku honestly felt more terrified of him than he did of his pops when he was angry. Sure, Ida-kun. What would you like to talk about? Today in class you dragged a fellow student by their dress shirt collar. I understand that Mineta-kun had committed some ungodly behavior, but I believe you could have taken a more gentle approach. Please be more mindful in the future. I wouldn't want you getting in trouble. Izuku was stunned to say the least. Was he actually that aggressive? I understand, Ida-kun, thank you for your advice. Izuku replied with a warning smile on his face. He was thankful to have new friends that cared about him just as much as Shinso does. Midoriya-kun. Ida-kun. Wait up. A bubbly voice called from behind. It's a voice Izuku has gotten himself sort of familiar with. Hey guys. Are you heading towards the train station? Uraraka asked. Izuku replied with a shake of his head, saying that he can simply walk home as his home was nearby, while Ida gave a positive response to Uraraka. The three of them continued their walk towards the school gate, chatting happily along the way. Yet despite all that, Izuku still felt like somebody was staring at him. Unprompted, he swung his head around only to find one angry-looking Bakugo staring straight at him and a stoic Todoroki who quickly averted his gaze to something else. Weird. But Izuku paid no mind. He continued to chat with his newfound friends before having to part ways. The next day at school starts off like any normal school day. Homeroom, roll call, normal core classes. Sooner or later, it was lunchtime. Izuku alongside Ida and Uraraka grabbed some delicious food made by Lunch Rush and sat at a table. Before long, Izuku had started rambling on and on about the foundational heroics class they have right after lunch, curious about the curriculum, what they'll do today and a lot more. His fast-paced muttering accidentally slipped out, but by then he was uncontrollable, leaving Uraraka and Ida to eat and listen in awkward silence. You're scaring them, Greenie. You shouldn't scare away your new friends. A hand plopped onto Izuku's head. Izuku finally stops muttering and tilts his head up. Hitoshi. Hey. I haven't seen you since yesterday. Where have you been? Also come join us. If you insist. Also, Ectoplasm told me to stay behind because it turns out my math skills were beyond grade level, so now I'm in the math classes for second years. Izuku's jaw drops, finally shutting up for the first time in the hour. It's not that big of a deal, don't make it one. It is a big deal, but... fine. Izuku replied, still reeling from shock and proudness of his best friend. He turns his head back forward and finally remembers he has other confused-looking friends sitting across from him at the table. Oh my bad, okay. Uraraka, Ida, this is Shinso Hitoshi, my best friend. Hitoshi, this is Uraraka and Ida, they're my new classmates. Izuku felt so embarrassed. How could he forget about two entire human beings that are literally in front of him? The three of them greet each other before Shinso finally gets to sit down. Sue, which class are you from, Shinso-kun? Uraraka, the ever-bubbly one, asks in hopes to start a conversation to get to know Shinso. 1C. Izuku can tell that Shinso is being even more cautious than normal. Sure, he might be introverted, but normal replies aren't usually this short. So he gives Shinso a nudge, urging him to continue on. 1C is the general course, but I'm going to get into the hero course. I want to be a hero. That's a noble goal, Shinso-kun. However, I'm unsure of the possibility of such, so please do not be disappointed if it is impossible. Ida replies densely. Unfortunately, that came off as a bit condescending to Shinso, who thankfully didn't take it too personally. I won't, I'll make sure I get in. Shinso promises, but to the others, it sounded more like a threat than reassurance. Seeing this, Izuku quickly took charge of the conversation about the debut of a new hero, Spark, a safe topic to get rid of the awkwardness. At a nearby table, a stoic Todoroki sits, staring at Midoriya and his friends intently. It's weird, he doesn't know why he does it, but something about Midoriya is just so fascinating to him. He just hasn't put a finger on what the fascinating factor is yet. So until Todoroki figures it out, he will continue life as normal with a new goal in mind, or well, as normal as you can get in the Todoroki household. After lunch was Class 1A's very first hero basic training lesson, and unsurprisingly, Izuku was buzzing in his seat. Like literally buzzing, it even got Shoji concerned. The rest of the class was in the middle of their chit-chats before the door slammed open. I am here, entering the door like a normal person. Everybody's eyes lit up, mouths hanging open. All Might? The class screamed in unison, one of the only times they've ever been so in sync. From Izuku's seat, he saw Kaminari asking Kirishima to pinch his arm to ensure that he's not dreaming, which Kirishima did and maybe possibly made Kaminari start bleeding. That cut looks deep? Suffice to say that Kaminari was taken to Recovery Girl. All right everybody, settle down. Today is your first ever foundational heroics course and it will not be an easy feast. But first, your hero costumes. Izuku admired the way All Might controlled the room with ease. It's insane how he didn't sound nervous at all, not even a stutter, despite the unexpected situation with Kaminari. As he finished up his thought, a costume case appeared in front of him. Midoriya. Your case was next to mine, so I thought I'd get it for you. Todoroki said. Oh, thank you, Todoroki-kun. Izuku stared at the back of the dual-headed boy. Did he just talk to Todoroki? As in, the son of Endeavor? Izuku's face distorted into something resembling both confusion and shock. The boy who was iced out from the start was now suddenly performing a kind gesture for him? God, what is happening? Before long, all of Class 1A aside from Kaminari had changed into their hero suits and were standing around nervously at Training Ground Beta. Hey Midoriya-kun. How's your costume fitting you? Uraraka asked. The color could have been darker. This hood makes me look like a bunny though. Uraraka glanced at his hood and took a step back to look at his entire costume. Uraraka's eyes glowed. How adorable! Uraraka marveled at Izuku's costume and how cute it made him look. She couldn't help but let out a minor snicker. Ndu Uraraka? Your costume? It's a bit too snug and these pressure points that help me from vomiting are a bit too loose. I also shouldn't have designed my costume with heels. Well, that's okay. We can always fill out a redesign form and submit it to the support department. I mean, we do have 3 years to refine these things. That's true. Before Uraraka could finish her sentence, a loud explosion from the other side of the platform ripples through the air. Izuku turned to look even though he already knew who it was coming from. What he didn't know was that that person was coming straight for him. Hey Deku. I don't know what kind of sheet you pulled to get so high on that quirk test or what the F, ever, and I don't know how you pulled a quirk out of your butt, but I'm going to beat you, you arrogant piece of sheet. Bakugo said in his most menacing tone that Izuku couldn't help but feel a shiver go down his spine. Even after getting into Yui, Katsuki Bakugo has yet to change. Who says I'm gonna let that happen, Kaken? Izuku replied to Bakugo in his most condescending tone, deliberately using his old nicknames to enrage him. Izuku doesn't know where this sudden burst of confidence comes from, but he sure as hell doesn't mind it. Students, please gather around. We are going to begin drawing for pair-ups for this assignment. All Might commanded with his booming voice. Sooner or later, everybody drew from the box and went to their partner. Then, it was Izuku's turn and there were only a few people left he could draw from. Uraraka, Todoroki, Bakugo, Ida, Momo. And so Izuku hopes to God that he doesn't draw Bakugo or Todoroki, which to his ultimate surprise, he doesn't. Instead he gets paired up with Uraraka. As Izuku and Uraraka walk away from the drawing box together, already planning different strategies for their first ever assignment, they hear an angry Pomeranian screaming something about not wanting to be paired up with 4 eyes. Izuku chuckled under his breath, poor Ida. Students, now that you've drawn a partner, you will be paired up with another team to complete the assignment. Team A will be guarding a fake explosive while Team B will try to retrieve said explosive. Here on the screen now are your team pairings. Izuku turns and his eyes start twitching. Not only was he the first team to do this assignment, the other team in his group was Bakugo and Ida. Welp, I guess his luck doesn't go far now, does it?
Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification. So when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.